Good evening. I call this regular meeting to order at 6:31 p.m. Pledge of Allegiance led by John Woo. Please rise. It's me. So please place your hands on your heart and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with the liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Clerk, roll call, please.
Mayor Wu,
Here.
Vice Mayor Menchaca,
Here.
Councilmember Chan,
Here.
Councilmember Ding,
Here.
Councilmember Harrington.
Here.
We will now have some announcements from our Chief City Clerk.
Tonight's meeting is live streamed on the city's online platforms. If you wish to address the City Council during tonight's meeting, we request that you please complete a speaker's card and hand it to the clerk at this time. When speaking, please state your name for the record.
Thank you. Approval of agenda order. Are there any objections to the agenda order? I hear none, so order is approved. Next item, please.
Presentation, National Hispanic Heritage Month. At this time, we will invite former Mayor David R. Gutierrez and former council member Karina Rivera to come to the podium. Mayor Wu will make the presentation, after which Vice Mayor Menchaca will comment.
Okay, so let me make a presentation first then. So whereas Hispanic Heritage Month is an official celebration of American citizens whose ancestry can be traced back to Mexico, Spain, Central and South America, and the Caribbean, and whereas the objectives of Hispanic Heritage Month are to create a greater awareness of Hispanic contributions to American culture, to illustrate the diversity of the Hispanic community, and to encourage a greater curiosity within young people about the rich history and cultural heritage of Hispanics. Now, therefore, I, John Wu, Mayor of the City of San Gabriel, California, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim September 15 to October 15, 2024 as Hispanic Heritage Month in the City of San Gabriel, and encourage the community to celebrate a collective, progressive, share with a Hispanic community. And now I would like to invite Vice Mayor Menchaca to make some comments.
Thank you, Mayor. As stated, Hispanic Heritage Month is a time dedicated to honor Hispanic and Latinx contributions and their historical impact on the community. This year's theme is Pioneers of Change, Shaping the Future Together. With that in mind, I would like to recognize the 8 Latino council members who have served since the day the city was incorporated in 1913. Their names and the years holding office are as follows. Blas A. Lugo, 1918 to 1922. Richard Montes, 1972 to 1976. Edward T. Lara, 1976 to 1986. James Castañeda, 1988 to 2000. David R. Gutierrez, 2001 to 2013. Mario De La Torre, 2009 to 2013. Yours truly, Denise Menchaca, 2017 to the present. Y Karina Rivera, 2022. In 111 years, there has been 6 Latinos and 2 Latinas on the dais. At this time, I ask 2 of those historic figures to come up and say a few words, David R. Gutierrez and Karina Rivera.
Excuse my voice because I'm getting over bronchitis. So today, as we gather to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month, I want to take a moment to reflect on the rich tapestry of cultures, histories, contributions that Hispanic and Latin communities have woven into the fabric of our nation. Let's start with historical figures from the 1500s, when Spanish explorers first made contact to this land. The revolutionary leaders like Simón Bolívar, who fought independence across Latin America. The impact of Hispanic individuals on global history is undeniable. Figures like Cesar Chavez, who championed the rights for farm workers, and Sonia Sotomayor, the first Hispanic woman on the U.S. Supreme Court, serves as an inspiration for all of us to pursue justice, equality, and representation. But beyond individual achievements, Hispanic and Latin communities have profoundly influenced America, our food, our music, our art, our literature. It beautifully creates a mosaic that speaks diversity from our experiences. The rhythms of salsa and merengue, the tamales, the tacos. It always invites everyone to join into the celebration. So in this month, as we reflect, we must acknowledge that there is also challenges in our communities, issues such as immigration reform, economic disparities, and systematic barriers to education and healthcare. It is crucial that we advocate for equitable policies and community support systems that uplift and empower all of us. Let us ensure that every voice is heard, that every dream is pursued, and that every individual is valued regardless of their background. Thank you, and viva la diversidad.
Mayor Wu, Vice Mayor Menchaca, honorable members of the council and staff, thank you very much for providing the opportunity of recognizing those of us who have proudly served in the past. And as important as Hispanic Heritage Month is to our state, nationally, to our region, I think really where the spotlight needs to be is where and how all of this significant culture began. And as I listen to many broadcasts on the TV or radio, many times we hear about the San Gabriel Mountains, the San Gabriel Valley. And let us not forget those most two important first words, San Gabriel. And as we know, San Gabriel has served as the origin of the entire region, the birthplace of the entire region, older than the city of Los Angeles, very significant. And as San Gabriel continues to embrace its rich history and culture, what I think where the significance is that as we evolve with the ethnic diversity that we see today, that we and the council has done an excellent job of providing opportunities to continue growth, to continue opportunities for all of the folks who are coming to our beautiful city, while not ignoring or ever forgetting the rich cultural history of our city. As we know, we have one of the 21 beautiful missions in the state, the oldest south of Monterey. And we are truly blessed. And I am truly blessed to have be able to be a member of this community, to have served on the council, planning commission, first youth commission back in 1969. I was only 3 years old if you're doing the math. And I continue to applaud the efforts that this council is making to continue to provide for our residents. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Gutierrez and Honorable Rivera. And now we have proclamations. I would like to present it to you and also my colleague, Vice Mayor Menchaca. So all our colleagues, let's go and take a photo. Thank you again. And next item, please.
Introduction of Iliana Flores, Assistant to the City Manager. City Manager Lazaretto will make the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I'm excited to introduce Iliana Flores to the city council and the community. Iliana will be our first assistant to the city manager. It's a new position to us, so she will have the opportunity and the honor to make that her own. Iliana comes to us from 6 years in the city of Temple City. She started out as the executive assistant to the city council and the city manager, and worked her way up to the PIO and the management analyst. So for the last 2 years, she worked on all their social media outreach. She had some really neat large projects she worked on citywide, like the Las Tunas Streetscape project that they've been working on for the last several months, and I think that was one of the last things that she worked on. Prior to that, she worked for the city of Duarte, and before that for Council District 15 in LA, where Joe Buscaino was the city council member for the time. She has a great background in public service. She's got members that she's married to and folks that she was born from that worked for cities, and really comes from a long background of public service. On the side, when she's not working for the city of San Gabriel, she and her husband have a photography business. And I think it's very cool that she's one of the official photographers for USC, Fight On, as well as for the Dodgers. She's worked for Clayton Kershaw and his charity. And you'll also sometimes see her in the plaza out in front of the beautiful Mission, taking wedding photos for brides and grooms and quinceañeras. And so I would expect, although our photography has been great here in the city, she's going to take it up an even higher notch. So with that, I welcome Iliana, and if you'd like to say a few words, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the kind introduction. Members of the City Council, Vice Mayor and Mayor, I'm just thrilled to work here. As our City Manager already stated, believe it or not, this location right in front of the Mission and in front of City Hall is actually my #1 most requested location to photograph at. I did grow up in the San Gabriel Valley. I currently live in the city of Glendora, and I also grew up in the city of Arcadia. So the San Gabriel Valley has been my home. But I'm very excited to work for this community, and I'm excited to utilize all of my resources and my photography to highlight our beautiful city, to highlight the city council, and just work with everybody. And I have to say, staff has been nothing but welcoming. So I'm very excited and see where this journey takes me. Thank you so much.
Thank you much, Iliana. Next item, please.
Public comment. This is the time set aside for members of the public to address the City Council on items of interest that are not on the agenda but are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the San Gabriel City Council. If you wish to address the council, please fill out a speaker's card and give it to the clerk. Our first speaker this evening is Mary Garcia.
Good evening, Mayor, my Mayor, City Council, Mark, City Manager, and members of the community. I'm here today as President of the Native Sons of the Golden West and Ramona Parter to invite each and every one of you to come to our Southern California weekend that will be held on October 4th and 5th. There is an agenda there with the program of what we'll be doing. The most important thing that I'd like to invite you to is our dedication of the San Gabriel Mission High School 75th year anniversary. We will be doing a dedication plaque to Raquel Cajigas, the principal, there at the school, followed by tours of the high school and a little reception like refreshments. It's very important to us that when we dedicate a building or something in the community, everybody knows about why we're dedicating it and the facts of everything. So this plaque has the history of when the high school started, and the priest and everything, the nuns that were involved in the teaching. So I would invite you all to come to the dedication on Saturday at 11 a.m. And then that evening, we will be having a dinner for all of our dignitaries that are coming from San Francisco and up north, close to the Oregon border. They're coming down that weekend. It'll be in the Mission Gardens, and courtesy of Karina Rivera and El Pavo, they will be doing our dinner for us. So it's a really nice event, and we also have included, not in your package, but in their package, the Dumplings Festival. Since that'll be Friday night, we are promoting that for them to attend. So thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you there.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I have no more speaker cards.
So no more speaker cards, so then the next item, please.
Consent calendar. All items listed under the consent calendar are considered routine, and recommendations will be approved in one motion unless a member of the City Council or public requests separate discussion. We have received a request from the public to speak on item 4J.
Stan, go ahead.
Mary Garcia.
I didn't know whether to sit down or stay here. Thank you again. The reason I'm here also is on item J, the fireworks that will be held at Gabriel High School on October the 10th. I would like to ask City Council why, if we ban the fireworks in the city and we stop the fireworks on 4th of July and did our drone shows, why are we allowing the high school to continue to do fireworks? This is very annoying to the neighbors, especially myself. I mean, if we don't know ahead of time, we can't make arrangements for our animals. The car alarms go off. So if you guys approve this, I would recommend that you please have the high school notify the neighbors within certain radius area that this is gonna happen. I mean, my dog goes crazy. I'm right across the street. And like I say, the car alarms go off. I know it's only 8 to 10 minutes, but those 8 to 10 minutes are really bad on our animals. And they're very important. They're part of our family. They're like our children. So please consider making them notify the neighbors or not approve it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Okay. So now would any council member like to pull an item for separate discussion?
I'd like to pull item J.
Item J, okay. So anything else?
I'd like to pull item 4C.
Item 4C. Okay, so item J and item 4C. And do I have a motion to pull those two items and approve others?
I'll move to approve all items except for 4C and 4J.
Okay, so motion by Vice Mayor Menchaca.
Second.
Okay, second by Councilmember Ding. Please vote.
Motion passes by a vote of 5-0.
Okay, thank you. So now for that's first thing first. So 4C?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to pull 4C just for just a small discussion and to express my opinion on there's the item regards to the League of California Cities Annual Conference Resolution Packet, and I just philosophically am not for the state passing rules that apply to us that they don't follow themselves. So it's more a philosophical disagreement. So in terms of the staff recommendation, I would like to make a motion when the time comes to use the first alternative to direct the voting delegate, which would be you, Mr. Mayor, to vote to support the proposed resolution. Because, like I said, I just, it doesn't sit right with me that the state is allowed to impose rules on our bodies, like the local city councils and school boards and water boards, and they are rules that they don't even have to follow. And so it's very kind of similar to how I think many people in the public may not know this, but with Congress members, people who are Congress members by law don't even have to live in their congressional districts. I tell people this and it freaks them out, you know, and I would, you know, just logically, you would think if you are, for something like a congressional seat, if you are going to run to represent a group of people, it's only logical that you live there and you live among your constituents and you follow those rules. And so that's why, that's a similar issue that I see here. And so that's what I would like. But thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Chen. So any other council member would like to? Yes, Councilmember Harrington?
Yeah, philosophically on these, I don't really like to vote for the city at all unless we're doing it on our own behalf, not for the league. Supporting the league, we're just adding our name to a bunch of other names, but I do support applying the law equally to all electeds. I think that makes sense. I don't know the mechanics of how this actually works on, I know it's gonna work on committees and smaller things like that, but when they say that basically they wanna apply the Brown Act was the whole impetus of it to the legislature, I don't know how that works, but I would love to see it happen. I don't know the viability of it. But I do support at least getting a little more transparency and a little more, get rid of some of the backroom stuff and the gut and amend stuff where they just make a lot of deals. They run a bill all the way through and then 100% change it and it does 180. If there's any way to do that, I'd rather see something like that, but I'm all for the more formal rules that they don't apply to our Assembly or Senate right now.
Thank you.
May I?
Yes.
To me, it's, just as a short response, to me, it's more than just about the Brown Act. Just philosophically, I want to see the wording here that they have, the California State Legislature shall not enact and the governor shall not sign into law any law or regulation that applies solely to the elected officials of California cities and counties, unless such law or regulation also applies equally to the members of the California State Assembly. So that's kind of the main language that I'm kind of in favor of, just the general concept of just putting it out there that says state cannot make a rule for us that they're not even gonna follow themselves. So that's where I stand. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Chen. Yes, Vice Mayor Menchaca?
Yeah, I agree, and so I agree with the recommendation from Councilmember Chan to change it, so let's see, voting, to vote for the
Alternative one?
proposed resolution, I guess would that be the motion? Also, I'll just sum it up, submitted by the City of Glendora. I'm just going to read what they said. What applies to one applies to all in the fair and equal treatment of all governmental officials at all levels in the state of California. So for me, it's everything. And so I'm making the motion, or I made the motion.
Any word from
I'm sorry,
from Councilman Ding?
Councilmember Ding and the mayor. Well, but we can still, I can make the motion, get a second. We
I
can
wasn't sure either, so that's why I kind of backed off on it earlier. I said, once discussion's over, I would, but yeah, I guess it's all legal, but thank you.
Thank you, understand. So I want to clarify this Cal Legal, this resolution, just the voice from our local city council member, right? We are actually, it's not really changing the law yet, right? It's we just like I and my colleagues already say that we want a local control. We also want a state legislature to, if they make a law, want our local to follow. They should be same equally. That's fair and the transparency too, So yeah, I really like this kind of voice direct to let our state legislature to understand what's going on at our local elected office, the voice. I supported that. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Councilmember Ding. And I think I personally do support this as well. So there are actually two ways that we can make this happen. Either one, let's vote today and make a motion and approve, then I will just act as we approved decision. And second, I'll just be there and vote, but after I listen to maybe a different, panelist, they have different opinions. But I do support it. I have read the packet, And I think this is fair that for the state level, when they make any kind of laws, or policy that try to regulate the local district or the cities, they should follow the same way. This is like the same standard and same moral, not double standards. So I do have one motion on table right now, and who would like to second? Which is, okay, so that is Vice Mayor Menchaca, would you like to read one more time?
My
your
mo-
motion?
Yeah, my motion is to vote on the proposed resolution.
I second.
So I have the motion by Vice Mayor Menchaca and second by Councilmember Dean.
For alternative one, right? That is
Number one, yes.
Thank you.
Please vote.
Motion passes by a vote of 5-0.
Thank you. That saved my time. Okay, next item, please. I'm sorry. Oh, yes, J. Yes, we have one more to pull item J. Yes, Vice Mayor Menchaca.
Thank you, Mayor. Mark, let me ask you the question. There's a list starting at 1, continues on to 2 of all the requirements. Could we add on there that they have some kind of notification for the neighbors, multiple languages, radius? I think what do we use usually? There's usually a radius we use for other types of notifications. What is that radius?
It would be different depending on the project, but in this case, if council wants that notification, I would suggest that you add that as one of those conditions, and then I'll let the fire marshal determine how far away that noise will be heard, and we'll just have the high school require that distance.
Okay, that was my only suggestion to amend the current recommendation.
Great. Any other council member? Any colleagues would like to make comments? Yes, Councilmember Chen.
Yes, I would agree with that. So what we would be doing would be, the motion, when it happens, will be to approve item 4J as amended with the stipulation of notification.
Okay.
Is that my understanding? Okay, thank you.
Okay, so any other discussion? Yes, Councilmember.
Just want to, based on the proposal, they say is it a couple minutes or just 2 minutes? Approximate 2 minutes, right?
minutes.
That's I want to clarify. Yeah. Okay,
It's a long
thank you.
2 minutes with our little
It's
doggy.
it's still scared. Right.
Okay, so Councilmember Harrington, anything? Okay, good. So we have a motion that to approve with amended that send out the notice to the neighbors, right? Okay, so we have motion by Vice Mayor Menchaca and
I'll second. Sure.
Councilmember Chen. Okay, please vote.
Motion passes by a vote of 5-0.
Next item, please.
Public hearing, ordinance number 710, amending the Valley Boulevard specific plan relating to ground floor office use and establishing minimum densities, SPA 24-001, introduction and first reading.
Okay, let me see. Where's that? One moment, please. Okay. Now, I now open the public hearing. Planning Manager Samantha Tewasard will take the staff presentation.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. The item before you this evening is the Valley Boulevard Specific Plan Amendment, that's SPA 24-002. This item was first discussed by the City Council on May 4th of 2021, followed by further discussions on July 6th of 2021, and then on July 2nd of this year, the City Council directed staff to bring options to the Planning Commission for an ordinance to allow a percentage of first floor office use in units which do not front Valley Boulevard and to establish minimum densities. Then on August 12th of this year, the Planning Commission reviewed the proposed draft ordinance and recommended approval with modifications. The next couple of slides, the City Council has seen before, so staff is going to go through them relatively quickly. Again, the proposed amendment this evening applies to two items, one being the ground floor office use and the second being establishing minimum densities for mixed-use projects. Again, there are 17 zones in the city, and this does not include the residential zones. 6 zones permit ground floor office use, which are highlighted in yellow. There are 6 zones within the Valley Boulevard specific plan, 4 commercially zoned and 2 are residential. 3 of the 4 commercial zones currently limit office use to the second floor and higher, and the remaining zone permits ground floor office use. An amendment to the specific plan would be required to allow ground floor office use in the remaining 3 zones. As mentioned at the July meeting and provided as attachments to the staff report, property owners and property managers have communicated that there is a shift in retail and commercial markets, and for the city to consider allowing ground floor office use within the Valley Boulevard specific plan area. Permitting ground floor office use in zones and areas that are not primarily office use in nature does vary from city to city, and that was discussed at the July meeting. And again, this map was presented to the City Council. The red areas represent the areas that currently do allow ground floor office use, and this is on Del Mar and San Gabriel, south of Valley Boulevard, as well as the north side of Valley Boulevard to the west. The mayor at the meeting asked if there was a corresponding colored map, and the land use map does provide that, and essentially the pink areas are the areas that currently allow for ground floor office use, and it's the purple and greens. Those are the areas that currently do not. And so here is a snapshot of Valley Boulevard. Within the staff report, it does discuss the current configurations of existing properties along Valley Boulevard. This is not the entire length or the entire specific plan, but it is a snapshot just to show the footprint of existing properties. There are some with complete frontage along Valley Boulevard, others that are in what's described in the report as a U shape or an L shape. And then those are the corresponding street views of what those buildings are. And the criterias for the limitations, as well as the number of units allowed, they'll be discussed in the subsequent slides, which is this one. So this was proposed language that was drafted by staff and presented to the City Council. So the limitations, as directed by the City Council at the July meeting, was to define the units that have frontage on Valley Boulevard, which is the units that do not have entrances that face Valley Boulevard, that do not have storefronts located up to the property line and do not border the sidewalk that runs along Valley Boulevard. And if those criteria do not apply to the unit, then the allowed number of office units per the center would be of a center range within the numbers as shown, 1 to 10, 1 office use, 11 to 15, the 2 office use, 16 to 20 would be 3, and 21 plus would be the 4 units. These criteria, as well as the number of units and office units that are applied, are all draft language. They are subject to the City Council's review and comments this evening. These were the items that were presented to the Planning Commission, and as discussed later, the Planning Commission did recommend approval, but with their modifications, and based on council discussion this evening, all of these criterias and numbers are still subject to amendments and modifications. And so that second item this evening would be the proposed minimum densities, and this would apply to 3 of the mixed-use areas that are currently defined by floor area ratio only. And the proposed amendment this evening would just be to establish the minimum densities for the 3 zones that currently do not. The other zones provides the range, which is the 20 to 40 a density to the acre. And so again, this map right here helps to show the areas that currently do not have the defined densities, which again is the green, the purple, the red, so coincidentally it is the same areas. And the purpose of this is to implement Housing Program 12 within the city's housing element, which is to encourage mixed-use development at a minimum density of at least 40 units to the acre. So this was a housing program that is included in the city's current housing element. And as part of the housing element research, it showed that the current newer developments along Valley Boulevard currently range in average densities of 61 to 69 units to the acre. So establishing 40 units to the acre is less than what the city is currently seeing without the minimum densities defined. Also establishing the minimum densities will help to ensure capacity assumptions for developers, knowing that there is the minimum density in place. As well, this will help to, this was listed. This will help to promote the reuse of underutilized commercial corridors, as well as accommodating development on a sliding scale. And also establishing the minimum density would establish a minimum baseline for developers only. And then also promoting development near transit stops and to encourage the use of public transportation. And so again, this is, it applies to the current 3 zones that do not have the established minimum densities. And as mentioned, the proposed ordinance was presented to the Planning Commission at the August 12th meeting, and the Planning Commission did vote to approve the draft ordinance with a 3-1 vote with the proposed modified ordinance, which was to remove the defined limitations, but to keep it at the number of office units that were proposed. The ordinance that is brought before the City Council does include the modification that was recommended by the Planning Commission. However, as staff has mentioned, that is subject to City Council discussion this evening. And staff is recommending to the City Council to conduct a public hearing and to discuss the proposed ordinance number 710, waive full reading and introduce ordinance 710 by title only. Bless you. And the title is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of San Gabriel, California, amending the Valley Boulevard specific plan relating to ground floor office use and establishing minimum densities, and to waive the future reading of the ordinance and to schedule the second reading and adoption of the ordinance for the next regular City Council meeting, and then the ordinance would become effective 30 days after the adoption. And this concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you very much, Samantha, for the report. So does any council member have questions for staff to clarify the report? No? Then, Chief City Clerk, do we have any public comment?
I have no speaker cards.
Okay, no speaker card. Okay. I now close the public hearing. It's now time for council deliberations and discussion. Who would like to start? Yes, Councilmember Harrington.
Thank you for the presentation, Samantha. I just had a couple questions for clarification and maybe discussion. Is there a reason we're limiting office space to 1 for 10 or just that schedule? Is there, like, why wouldn't we allow 2, for example, at the discretion of the community development director or something? Is it just, would we think too much office might be taking over some of these centers, or?
No, just the baseline for that in discussion. Really, the starting point based off of council discussion was to recommend a percentage. And as staff was considering the percentage from the start of a 10% to a 15%, and eventually calculating what that percentage would look like based on the number of units within a plaza, it was just more straightforward to identify a standard number. So if a property owner or a business applicant were to come to the counter to ask how many units can I have in a center, it's
Give a
easier
number.
to give a number as
Give a
opposed
number,
to
yeah.
doing calculations. And not only that, if a plaza were to ever subdivide or consolidate, then that number shifts as well. So it's just a more straightforward number. However, that's just staff's recommendation this evening.
Got it. Because I was just among the council, I was thinking 1 out of 10 is probably a lower number if you're doing commercial. I was thinking 2. I don't know, just what the council might think. I don't think 2 offices and 10 units is invasive. Like, you have a architect on one side and, you know, something else on the other. If it was like all offices, then it does become office and not commercial. We kind of have to watch that. We're trying to, you know, get the commerce, because obviously offices don't generate as much revenue as commercial. So we kind of
Meaning like real, retail.
retail, yeah.
Retail.
That's what those are zoned right now. It's just retail. So that's kind of my first just conceptual, how high do we want to go as far as office? Because I think it benefits the landlords because then they get full occupancy, which means they get revenue, which they pay taxes as well. Not as much as when it's commercial, but at the same time, it makes the city looks a lot nicer when we have occupied buildings. And if we're sitting there going, not occupied, not occupied, not occupied, but we backfill it with 2 offices, I'm fine with that. I think I'd rather have our city occupied, and then those people are going to go use other commercials, they're gonna eat lunch here, they're gonna do stuff in town, which generates taxes as well. It's just not directly seen from that business.
Let me ask you a question. So the first one goes from 1 to 10 units, and then 11 to 15, 16 to 20, so there's like 4 or 5 difference. I was just thinking maybe we should divide that so it's 1 to 5, and then 6 to 10 or something, because then if you say 2 office units, which, I agree if you have 10, but if you only have 2 office units, or even, 3, then the majority becomes
Yeah.
office units. So maybe
1 to 5 would be like-
scaling that a little bit to 1 to 5 or
Yeah, yeah.
4, something like that.
Yeah, I think that'd be a more, a better cutoff, because if you had 6, 2 out of 6 isn't terrible.
Yeah,
either.
exactly.
And especially if they're getting fully rented now, and that brings our occupancy rates up across the city, which actually attracts more businesses. So the whole idea here is to get occupancy in a lot of our centers. I think it's kind of a good balance. If we can, I think 1 to 5 is a good idea. And then just kind of break it at every 5. So it's basically the 20% ratio. And then,
So 1 to 5 would be 1, 6 to 10 would be 2, okay.
even though at 6, technically it's 30%, but like we said, it's better to give a number than a percentage because it's much more clear when you walk into a city and say, how many can I rent out?
But then we have 11 to 15, we have 2.
Yeah, that would be 3. So
So
that's
now you
just goes
get
at
to 3.
basically a 20% ratio, but it goes up and then down and then up.
and then 4.
Average is 20%,
Okay.
or the median. I should say median, not average. The math nerds out there. Then my next question, it kind of, on the density part, I had a question as to why, if we're averaging 60+ units, why are we putting a floor right now? And the question kind of derives from, in the areas where we could potentially have just straight up commercial, no mixed use, are we now forcing housing into those if someone doesn't propose it? Or is that if they propose housing, it's 40 units?
Correct, if it's a mixed-use development.
Gotcha, okay. Yeah, because I can't see a developer doing less than that if they're doing mixed use, but I guess it is what it is. I mean, I kind of would rather have developers decide, but if they, I don't know someone that would go lower than 40. I really don't, but they're gonna max it out because they make their money on the housing. So I'm not worried about that, but I just wondered why we were doing that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Harrington. Who's next? Councilmember Chen.
I'm fine with the proposal as discussed, as our discussion goes right now, so I'll just wait and listen. Thank you.
And Councilmember Ding?
Yeah, I just want also clarify, so ground unit, it's included on the street or just only on the U-shape or an L-shape? So how do you calculate for it's all inside the U-shape, the totally how many unit you count, or the included from the store unit?
So the ordinance before the city council evening removes that limitation based on the recommendation from the planning commission. Staff kept that in place so that the city council can see the limits that were defined based on city council's discussion in July. But the draft this evening does not include those limitations. So it would be all units, all center, without the limitation.
All unit on center?
Yes,
Just
yes.
Each like the plaza, they all unit, okay. But just only count the ground floor,
Ground floor.
not for the second floor, right?
Yes, that's already permitted.
Okay, all right. So, yeah, I agree that my colleague discussed, so 1 to 5, or you maybe 1 to 10, it's, I just, another option, okay. 1 to 10 is 2 office, and 15 is 3 office, just 20%. If we use the percentage, it's okay. And 16 to 20 is 4 office, it's 25%. And then 21 up we use the 4%, 4 office or 5 office, probably still less than 25%. That's, I remember we discussed the direction that's around, if you use the percentage, like 25%. So I think it's more close to the 25%. Yeah, we still can discuss, see, yeah, what's the, yeah, like I agree, like Councilmember Harrington say, sometimes, right now, retail, it's restaurant. I just say that. A lot of the retail, it's hard to survive. So it's better their vacancy, have some like office, especially, we have a lot of mixed use, and it's good for the senior people or disabled people to easy to walk for the first floor. So a lot of consideration. So yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Ding. Yes, Vice Mayor Machaca.
Yes, thank you. Well, I like to keep it 1 to 5, 6 to 10, because if you look at the increments, it's a lot easier, because if you keep it to 1 to 10, and you have, two ground floor units, and you have the number 2 there, then the whole thing is going to be office space. So I do like it divided that way, but.
I agree, that it's cleaner.
It's cleaner, yeah, exactly. I wanted to just clarify real briefly before I forget. Whatever we do decide here, the applicant could always appeal, is that correct? No? Okay. So then this is the ordinance and there's no more appeals.
Unless it comes back for another amendment.
Okay, okay, great. And I wanted to also applaud staff for doing those, surveying the surrounding cities like Alhambra, Arcadia, Maury Park, Rosemead, to show that things have changed. They've shifted, as you mentioned. We talked about making those areas more walkable, more business-oriented, and also avoiding darkness, because if you only have offices, it's all dark in the evening. So just a reminder why we even are considering this. One of the things I just wanted to mention, it's very targeted to Valley Boulevard only. And I was trying to understand why that was, at least in the past, because if you go down San Gabriel Boulevard and Las Tunas, there's obviously, this does not apply at all. I mean, there's everything, a lot of medical offices that are on Las Tunas, and well, even San Gabriel Boulevard, I guess, to a certain extent. Could you give me just a little history of why Valley Boulevard was so targeted and not San Gabriel Boulevard or Las Tunas?
Without going through the staff reports at the time and whether or not that was analyzed economically, it can only be assumed that it was for tax purposes.
Tax purposes?
To generate revenue, to have that mixture of
You
retail.
remember? Do we have a historic figure here?
Well, we should ask Dave, because he was here when they did the plan. I know. But we've had that discussion. At the time, the council was trying to kind of create an economic zone just with commercial, because you have to remember back around that time, things were bustling, and they thought they could, we have that legacy of all these restaurants and all this lively stuff coming down Valley Boulevard, but I think there's not enough capacity, there's too much capacity now. But at the time, they thought they could just generate a lot of revenue by just limiting it to commercial, because office does not pay as much in tax revenue per square foot that commercial does. The idea was make the offices on the side, San Gabriel and like that, and Las Tunas, but make Valley kind of the economic engine. I remember that was, and that goes back to the plan when you kind of get into the plan. I know it's old now, but I've read it. So it's kind of, that was the idea. It almost worked.
So it's very intentional?
Yep.
Okay, that's what I was trying to.
That's why we're here now, to change intentions.
Well, economics change too, so. Okay, well, I agree with the discussion on the units that was originally mentioned by Councilmember Harrington, the change. And I agree with the 40, the minimum 40, since it's part of our general plan anyway. We want to be consistent, even though we know it's going to be more. As Councilmember Harrington mentioned, they're going to try to put as much as they can in there, but since our general plan encourages 40, I think it's it's consistent, because we start changing things, and it just makes it more complicated for everybody involved. So, that's all I have, Mayor.
Well, thank you, Vice Mayor Menchaca. So I do have some question. Samantha, on page 3, it states that ground floor office that use would be allowed as long as, 1, it does not have an entrance on Valley Boulevard. 2, does not have a storefront located up to a property line. And last, it does not border the sidewalk that runs along Valley Boulevard. So to clarify that, does that mean that as long as the office is not on major visual presence from Valley Boulevard, it will be permitted? Is that correct?
Yes, so this was staff's initial proposal, but as part of the attached ordinance, that has been removed.
And my second question is regarding the ratio chart that for permitted ground floor use. So which range from 1 to 4 depending on the number of floor units in the plaza or shopping center. So what is the shopping center already, I mean, if they have already an existing ground floor office in use, would that office be considered as a grandfather in, or will it allow for additional new office units regardless the existing one?
No, it would count.
It will count.
Yes.
So let's say if we just approve this one and that is like a 8-unit shopping center and they have already 1 office, so that is, it's a that. Okay, got it. And third question is about several medical offices on Valley Boulevard, such as the cardiology office across from Mission Hardwares, and the medical office next to the UPS store on Valley Boulevard. So are those existing medical service buildings or offices considered as a grandfather use?
Oh, then that's correct, yes.
Okay. Then, if a property owner agrees that tenant to merge 2 adjoint units into 1 large unit, would that be considered as a violation since we count the units by number or by office, but it's not by square footage?
No, it would count as a singular unit.
So they can merge. If they rent 2 units, but they merge 1 and just use 1 single number. Okay. Then, okay, I think that's all my question I have. Well, I think, to me, I mean, it's really about the freedom, the free market. I mean, business owner, the property owner, they have their right to decide that who they want to choose to be their tenant. So if we would regulate them for like any front, like a ground floor office that would not be permitted just because our policy, so they would just leave it there vacant, it's not really fair to them. But I think the number shows here 1 to 10 ground floor units. One more question. If they have like, this is only, we are all talking about the ground floor. So it doesn't matter if they have like 5, 6 offices on 2nd floor. We are talking about the front, the ground one. Yeah, I think that a higher percentage will be better. I would say less than 25%, but it could be like 25%. I'm sorry, but Councilmember Harrington, what is your proposal? What's your suggestion?
So we had a blend between Vice Mayor Menchaca and I. 1 to 5, you get 1.
Okay, 1 to 5 get 1.
6 to 10, you get 2.
2. Okay.
If you had 6, you could have 2 right at the split.
6 or above to get 2.
Then 11 to 15.
15 is 3,
3.
16 to 20.
Oh, okay.
It just goes up as you have more units.
Similar way.
Yeah, it's very simple.
Yeah.
5 is max.
5 or the max.
Yeah.
I feel comfortable with that because it's like it's more reasonable, especially when we have existing unit that is using as an office. It just occupied and that cannot be used. I mean, that quota has been used. So I will suggest that we can just make that number is a little bit more feasible, and it seems like it will be really helpful. It's still their decision that either they want to accept that in office or they still want to pursue for the retail. That is their choice, but at least they have an options. So do I have any further discussion from our council member?
I just want to, you mentioned that, it's want to clarify, if the whole plaza, every unit, it's on storefront, it's on the street, a sidewalk, so they not qualify.
Every unit will qualify as proposed,
As opposed,
unless the council brings back the limitations as defined.
so, for example, the mixed use, at the first floor, they still also qualify, have the office use. Okay, I just want to clear.
Yeah, but the proposal took that regulation off.
Okay, okay,
Every unit is available.
okay.
Every unit.
Every unit available, okay. So, because at that time when we discussed on the storefront, we don't allow it, right? Just only U shape or L shape. But right now, it's every unit have
Every unit
open.
open.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so do I have any further discussion? Mark?
Pardon me for barging in, Mayor Wu, but before we make a motion, I talked to Keith, and Keith, please chime in. But the way ordinances work, if we make too much of a change when it's published for first reading, we'll need to bring that back with the changes and have that ready for the public so they can see that before we adopt it. So I think that'll actually work to our benefit. We can come up with those new units that we talked about, put that in a staff report, and also make it abundantly clear that all of the units, including the ones at Front Valley, are going to be affected by this ordinance. And then we would bring that at the next council meeting, and council would have a first reading that night, and then at the council meeting following, it would be the second reading.
So it's not another hearing, it's just a first reading.
It would be a first reading. What we would do, the mechanics of it would be, or my suggestion would be, to, the vote tonight would be to continue the public hearing to October 1st, so we wouldn't have to renotice it.
Yeah, for public comment.
Keep the public hearing open, public comment could come back, and then we would have the first reading that night. So if somebody wanted to make that motion, it would be to continue the public hearing till October the 1st.
Just a quick question. And we also have to include the minimum density, because there's a two-part here.
I think technically you could bifurcate it, but my suggestion would be to just bring it all back at the same.
Yeah, so it would be not only the allowed ground floor units, the change we made there, but to also bring back the minimum density. That, I think we all agree was 40.
So do I have a motion to continue?
Motion to continue.
Okay, yes.
Second.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Harrington and second by Councilmember Ding. Please vote.
Motion passes by a vote of 5-0.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Continued business, consideration of a professional services agreement with Farm Habits for the Certified Farmers Market and budget appropriation of $25,000 for marketing and equipment. Community Development Director Cervantes will make the presentation.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This item pertains to the relaunching of our City of San Gabriel's Farmers Markets. At the prior meeting, the City Council directed staff to return with an agreement to onboard a new farmers market operator, and in this case, a proposal is for Farm Habits to launch our farmers market. The council also directed staff to locate the farmers market on Mission Drive, as well as to hold the event on Saturday mornings. During the 2023 strategic planning process, the City Council directed staff to explore the opportunities for a farmers market within the city. As a result, staff looked at various elements to help launch the farmers market, including meetings with prior vendors. We launched a citywide survey. Staff also visited local farmers markets and also requested for local operators to submit proposals to the city for our evaluation. The original survey performed prior to the first farmers market resulted in about 200 responders. Those survey results found that about 85% of the responders wanted a farmers market. A large number of the responders also expressed a desire to have fruits and vegetables as well as baking goods. The responders also noted that Mission District was the ideal location for a farmers market. As part of the exit strategy for the 2024 farmers market, the market that just ended, the public expressed again a desire to see more vendors, to see a variety of different vendors, as well as to explore a new location for the event. As part of farmers or farm habits survey or strategy, I would say, they will survey the public, which is happening at the moment, to determine the appropriate vendors, the best products for the farmers market, and possibly, if necessary, look at a best day and time for the event. Prior to the launching of the 2024 farmers market, staff received proposals from 3 qualified operators. After evaluating the remaining proposals, as well as reviewing the surveys from the prior survey as well as the exit surveys, meeting with operators and reviewing the deliverables, staff recommends moving forward with Farm Habits as our future operator. Farm Habits will provide the following: a strategic insight on how to launch a farmers market within the city with a diverse mixture of vendors for our farmers market. The operator will offer income qualifying programs and incentives, involve the local businesses as part of the farmers market, include nonprofit organizations into the events, as well as looking to onboard a makers market once a month to the event center as well. Farm Habits does demonstrate the best fit given the strategy, the surveying opportunities, as well as the working style, as well as their experience with other farmers markets events that they run. As part of the agreement with Farm Habits looks to launch the farmers market under the following conditions. We'll look to locate the farmers market on Mission Drive between Santa Anita Avenue and Broadway. We will provide customer parking via ADA and traditional parking within the Mission Playhouse parking lot, as well as the park and ride lot. In order to meet the needs of the public pursuant to farmers market strategy, Farm Habits is looking to secure a few Asian style produce farmers. And as a result of this strategy, these farmers will not be ready for the farmers market launching until springtime. Due to these seasons of these specific farmers, the market will begin around March or April of 2025. The proposed market hours will be on Saturday mornings between the hours of 9 a.m. and 2 p.m., whereas setup time will be roughly around 8 a.m. Nonprofit community organizations will also be allowed to participate via booths into the event center. The market will look to host about 10 farmers, 10 food vendors, as well as 10 arts and crafts vendors for a total of 30 vendors. And as mentioned prior, Farm Habits is organizing citywide surveys to collect as much data as possible regarding the needs of the community. At this point, it is unclear as to the vendors specifically that will participate into the event. As soon as the Farm Habits receives permits for the vendors specific to our event, we will notify the public as well as notify the City Council of those specific vendors. Staff's obligation with respect to this operation is marketing as well as equipment purchasing. In terms of marketing, staff will continue to provide paid ads on social media, provide street banners, multiple street banners, as well as stationary street flags, provide directional signage for pedestrians, mail the flyer to surrounding properties, and marketing pulses on electronic signboards within our newsletters, including Discover San Gabriel, e-newsletters, as well as I mentioned, social media sites. This is the map of the event center where the blue identifies the location of the farmers market with alternatives with respect to locating our future makers market. The priority would be to locate the makers market also on Mission Drive, but there are alternatives to locate the makers market either in the park and ride lot or in the Mission Playhouse. But again, our preference would be to locate the makers market alongside the farmers market on Mission Drive. And so with that said, staff recommends the City Council review and approve the professional service agreement with Farm Habits and authorize the city manager to execute and sign the agreement. 2, adopt resolution number 24-62 for the appropriation of funds. And lastly, approve a fee waiver of all business license fees and taxes for the farmers market. And I open for questions.
Thank you, Aldo. Does any council member have questions for staff for Aldo to clarify? Yes, Councilmember Chen?
Yes, my main question is just for me to understand the math of how this works. According to the staff recommendation, item 2, adopt the resolution number 24-62. So I look at our original staff report that's in our agenda packet, read page 31, excuse me, which is the resolution. My question is, why does it talk about, after the whereases and the section 1 non-departmental special events fund appropriation increased by $25,000, where I'm trying to square that with, in that same staff report, read page 4, where the paragraph that talks about fiscal impact, it seems to say that our current budget already includes $21,000, and all we need to do is make up that gap of $4,000. So I'm trying to understand why the resolution says, I don't, to me, maybe I'm misinterpreting, but it seems like the resolution is asking for another whole $25,000. And I don't know if it's a question for you or maybe Will, or on the accounting end of.
Well, the intention is to add on to the budget. So we do have some cost savings from the prior market,
Okay.
Where we didn't spend about $6,000 of the funding. In this case, we're looking to add, because the budget currently now, as adopted, includes $21,000 for this event. And so we're looking to add another $4,000 to allow us to purchase the equipment as well as to continue to market the event. So
Right.
we're really just adding another $4,000 to the adopted budget.
And that's the way I'm interpreting it. So that's why I was just confused as to why the resolution talks about increasing another $25,000. Is that just the way the legal wording works? Or I'm just.
Well, I mean, my interpretation was that that's the total that they're going to withdraw from that specific account. I don't think you mean in addition. It's just, that's the total, even though we've already set it aside.
Right.
But that's all you can take from that account.
That's correct. We're looking to identify what the total is, as Vice Mayor mentioned. But again, we're just adding another $4,000 to an adopted budget.
Okay, so the gap is that $4,000, not a resolution to somehow come up with another separate $25,000.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mark?
I was just going to say, I'm sorry to cut you off, Councilmember Ding. Councilmember Chan, I think we can clarify that if we change the word by to the word to. So if we say are increased to $25,000, that seems to be more in line with what we're asking.
Yeah, then that would be the way I would interpret it, and so that's what just kind of confused me. It just seemed to me like we're asking to add another chunk of $25,000. Okay, so just that's just minor clerical change. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Chen. So who's next? No? Okay, then Chief City Clerk, do we have any public comment?
We do, Mr. Mayor. Erlinda Romo.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council, and Mark. I want to start off going back to the Valley Boulevard specific plan. I was actually staff doing economic development for the city of San Gabriel, and the reason why retail was on the ground floor was to build foot traffic, to try to get more people walking up and down the street to build up that commercial corridor. It would ultimately lead to more sales tax revenues for the area. That being said, I'm going to put my hat talking about the farmers market. In concept, this type of activity does the same thing. It brings people, it brings foot traffic to the Mission District. This is something, you've seen me here, this is the third time I talk about farmers market. And I think this time, it sounds much better than it did earlier this year. We're talking about 10 vendors. We're talking about bringing some specialty Asian vendors to sell produce. And I think it's important that you wait until spring next year. When you wait for spring next year, you have more variety of produce. I go to farmers markets. I would come to the one in San Gabriel, and I was in and out in a minute or two. So having more vendors, when I'm in Pasadena, I spend about half an hour there. So the more things you have to shop, to look at, you have more choices, you're going to spend more time. So that's all my comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, next one.
More public comment?
No more? Okay. So now it's time for council's discussion. So who would like to start? Ms. Vice Mayor?
Sure. Thank you. Okay. So, so the deal breaker here is that if we want to start sooner than spring, and I'm assuming spring is March, April, is that what we're looking at?
Correct.
Then we would not work with this particular vendor. And this is the vendor that you vetted and you feel is the best fit. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and if we want to start sooner, the second vendor, you had some reservations, you know, whoever came in second or third?
It was a third vendor. The name escapes me, but I just didn't feel, based off their proposal, that they were a fit for our market.
Okay. And the primary reason they want to have the delay, and this is my understanding by reading, is because the Asian produce wouldn't be available. because
Correct.
of the way. So what happens with all these other farmers market, whether it's Temple City, Alhambra, Pasadena? I mean, they must have Asian produce too, or how do they fill the gap during that downtime?
Yeah, and that's a good question, and I would field that over to Mark Anderson, who's the owner of Farm Habits. He's not here today, he couldn't make it. But at this moment, I could only assume that they fill the gaps by traditional farmers, which is your traditional type of fresh fruits and vegetables, bakers, arts and crafts, that sort of thing. But given Farm Habits' sort of look or glance at San Gabriel, their immediate reaction was, especially meeting them out in the field, was that they need to capture the Asian produce for our city, given the demographics. And they feel that would be a great launching point for our farmers market, and without that, you could end up having the same result as our last market. And so they feel very strongly that a majority of their farmers need to be this specialty item in order to have a successful farmers market.
Okay, so the strategy is bring them in up front.
Right.
And then when we do have that delay, then they'll be able to fill it in, but we'll have our customer base, hopefully.
Right, I like to
strong
think of it
base.
as you know, setting the momentum for the market. And of course, when the season ends, we have the momentum still, but we switch over to more of a traditional style farmers market.
Okay. And the 30 vendors, I mean, I would like the council to see who those 30 vendors are before we launch it and market it to everyone else. I think it would be important for us to look at it. That's a lot of vendors for our little city on a Saturday that's already booked, probably by so many. So I would be very interested to see who those 30 vendors are in advance.
Right, and that's a good point, because for our experience with Dumpling and Beer, as soon as we highlight the vendors who are showing up to the event, you see ticket sales start to escalate. And so that's a good point. Once we start launching, or at least advertising who our vendors are, you start to see that interest climb for the event.
Yeah, okay. But again, just in advance. Also, the street flags that you mentioned, are those the flags that kind of, it's in a stake, and it's kind of a half circle? and
Right,
They're
those are-
flying around?
correct,
Okay.
right.
Well, one of the comments I got from the public, and maybe it's part of the survey, is that, people navigate to the parks. And people are at the parks and don't even know that we have a farmer's market down the street. So I would really emphasize some type of marketing specific to the park so people can go from the park to our farmer's market. It just seems like a natural.
Right, I had estimated about purchasing 12 flags, and those flags will be spread out throughout the city, specifically the parks, because there are
Okay,
a lot of residents who go to the
Yeah.
parks. And I think that would be a good opportunity. I think the last go-around with the farmer's market, we sort of failed to get south of our city to advertise for the event, aside from a signboard. So we can do a better job with the flags and
Even
posting.
east, I mean, people were at
Right.
Smith Park, they didn't even know. They just had to walk down the street for the farmer's market.
Right.
So I think really targeting our parks, Smith Park, just because geographically it's closer than even Vincent Lugo. But Vincent Lugo is also an important park. So that would be my suggestion. Also, I was out of town this weekend, but I was fortunate enough to, as we were doing some walking, they had closed down the street. There was kind of like a farmer's market, but what I noticed is they had some type of musical act or band, and it was just so relaxing and inviting and positive vibes. It wasn't anything, loud per se. It was just really inviting for all age groups, and people had their dogs, and so I didn't see this anywhere in the 30 vendors, but I would really encourage us to have some type of musical act there, because it adds positive vibes. I mean, just overall.
Vice Mayor Menchaca, I think somewhere in the report, I think I did see something about a musical act. So
Right.
so I think
But it's not part of the 30 vendors, or is Farm Habit doing it, or are we responsible for that?
It can be either one, but Farm Habits would take the lead on bringing in the entertainment. We haven't worked out the details for what that entertainment looks like. They're not part of the 30 vendors. They're just
Okay.
an extra
So it'd be
piece.
extra, okay.
Right.
Well, thank you, Councilmember Chan. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that was added. The other thing, or the other, we also talked as a council, and it was the Mayor Wu who brought it up, assigning or hiring a manager to oversee the farmer's market. Now, it looks like Farmer Mark, I guess is his name, he would be the manager. I mean, we wouldn't, when we signed the contract, Farmer Mark would would assign probably somebody, but his team would essentially be the manager, and then you would still be the contact for the city, but Farmer Mark would oversee the 30 vendors and possibly the entertainment, or how does this work? Because I really did like that idea, and I know Alhambra does that, but I just feel, again, that you only have, 4 people in your department. This is a big undertaking. It's every single week, and so is this something we should still consider as someone representing the city to have this ongoing relationship with Farmer Habit, or is this something that you think your staff or yourself could handle every single week?
Well, the sort of the game plan for Mark Anderson is, to us, he is just the point of contact for Farm Habits. He assigns an operator for all of his farmers markets that are listed in his proposal. So he would essentially assign a new manager to manage our farmers market. And that person will be dedicated to running our farmers market in terms of logistics, setting up, possibly helping with the flags and so forth, and even cleaning up the site after the event is over. My understanding, based off speaking to Mark, is that we will have a dedicated individual that we can reach out to for ideas, for setups, or what have you, surveys or notification process, that sort of thing. The last farmers market, we had multiple people running the event, and it was very difficult for us to understand who was the lead on managing the event. In this case, we would have one individual, according to Mark, and that person would be the point of contact. Now, as far as assigning a staff person internally to manage this event, There's not much to manage from our end, other than making sure that marketing is continuing throughout the course of the event. Equipment purchases, that's a one-time deal. We purchase the equipment before the event starts. The manager will then make sure that it's set up, tables and chairs are put up. The vendors for the kids' activities will be a separate vendor. They will deliver the products, set up, and that will be the end of their.
I'm sorry, the vendor for the kids, who's managing that? The city or Farmer Mark?
We would manage that because it's a separate aspect of the project, separate contract. So it's really quite simple. We have a vendor that we've used in the past. We would rent the equipment and they would deliver it, set it up and break it down and take it out. There's not much there to manage other than making sure that we order the equipment, we order the product, it gets delivered. The operator of the event can ensure that products are delivered on time and manage those events and manage those contracts. But like I mentioned, staff is merely managing the continuing marketing of the event. That is really the bulk of it in terms of staffing. Because like I mentioned, the equipment's already been purchased and that's gonna be stationary. It's really just working with our PIO and making sure that we continue to market, paid ads on social media, use our newsletters to market the event. That's really all it takes.
Okay. So you can handle that?
Yes.
Okay. And then lastly, hate to be the downer here, but it didn't work out the first time.
Right.
What kind of metrics are we going to have this time? And is there enough time? Because I was looking at the contract. I think it's 6 months, 90 days in advance. How are we going? I mean, if we see in 2 months it doesn't work, even sooner, but let's say 2 months, it's not working again. What are our metrics? How are we going to evaluate it so you don't have council members or this community really upset and saying this isn't working? It takes us 1 minute, 2 minutes to view all the vendors. What do you have in place?
Yeah, what we have in mind so far, and we haven't really deep dived into the matrix of this, but we looked at attendance records to see how many people show up. We have several points of entry into the event, so we can certainly assign individuals to those points of entry to keep a number or tally, I would say, of the individuals showing up to the event. That would be the first opportunity for a matrix. Surveying the vendors, making sure they're making their profits or making it worth their while to attend our events. I would say that we would hold the operator accountable for a lot of the matrix, and they would be the ones to supply us the information or the data, and whatever data we receive, we can present that to the city council for further consideration. But for starters, attendance, as well as looking at discussions with their operator to see what else we can do.
Okay, because the contract is for 2 years, but there is a clause here, termination agreement. So it says after 6 months of the market launch date, either party may terminate or change the agreement on 90 days written notice for any reason. Is 6 months too long?
Well, 6 months is compared to the last event, certainly it can be too long. One option that the council can consider is added language that can be based off performance. If performance slips by virtue of the vendor's fault, we can terminate the agreement. Right now, we're locked into 6 months, and after 6 months, we can consider termination. So we can always amend that language to make it more flexible on the city side in case we see the drop in performance. So we can always terminate the agreement, I would say.
But you would have to be very specific on the performance. You just can't say if it slips, it's like slips by half the vendors, a quarter of the vendors. I mean, it would have to be thought out.
Right.
And then you have to take it back to Farms Habit and make sure they are in agreement.
Right. The other option is we switch it from 6 months to 3 months. That way it's more sort of a shorter time frame, and we can keep more track of that with a shorter timeline.
Do you think they would agree to that?
They would prefer a longer agreement, but we can certainly discuss. I can go back and talk to Mark to see what they're wanting to do with respect to the agreement. They would love to see a one-year agreement, and that's what their stance is.
Okay. Well, I'd love to hear from my colleagues about that particular item. Well, all items, but that one in particular. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Vice Mayor. And Councilmember Chen, please.
Yeah, I just have a quick, pretty easy question. You know, with all the discussion we've been having and kind of going back and forth, I've gotten a little bit lost in terms of timeline. So with farm habit, are we looking at, are we saying we're going to start that ASAP or wait till spring? What is the?
Well, with Farm Habit Strategy, they want to wait till spring to launch the event.
Okay, so if we go with them, then we are looking at waiting till spring. But if we
Correct.
want to start earlier, then that would mean we would have to forego them and go with one of the other possible vendors.
The likely scenario is if we don't go with farmers market or farm habits, is we would have to RFP for this
Yeah.
service, which could
Okay.
take at least a few months to get responses. Based off those responses, we would approach the council to award based off the qualifying.
So we're kind of starting over.
We would start over, yes.
So, I mean, the best thing basically, after you do all that, then you kind of end up in spring anyway.
Right, one of
possibly.
excuse me,
No,
one of
go
the other great reasons for starting this in the spring of next year is we're conducting surveys at the moment, or at least with the
Right.
help of Farm Habits. We're
Right.
conducting surveys to gather some information from the public. The other reasons for, or the other benefits for the delay is we're looking at methods for closing of the streets,
Right.
different than, using vehicles and other means of closing the street. And so this is going to give us an opportunity for looking at those additional methods or alternative methods for closing a street, in this case barriers, looking at cost, seeing what can work for us. And so this time will give us some benefit with respect to
Figure out logistics.
equipment versus
Okay.
that of surveying the community.
Okay, no, I don't have a problem with that. I'd rather do it right than do it quickly.
Right.
So, thank you. That's all I had.
Well, thank you, Councilmember Chen. Who's next? It's Councilmember Harrington.
Thank you, Mayor. I do agree that I think waiting right now, I mean, if you've been to any of the farmers markets in the past few weeks, we're at the end of the season and the selection is very light, no matter where you're going right now on anything. I mean, things come all year round, but like right now, we're kind of in between seasons. We're not quite on the fall season and the spring is done and summer's done. So yeah, if we started right now, you're not gonna get a whole lot of variety. You're gonna get 6 vendors with the same thing. That's just the way the crops come in. Spring is always, there's a lot of variety and you can get 10 vendors, a lot better chance of getting 10 vendors. I mean, I don't think we'd get a variety. We might have 10 vendors, but 4 of them will be the same. Even when you go to Alhambra, Pasadena right now, you're gonna see a lot of the same stuff being sold. As far as I'm all for, let's rework this, and I appreciate the work that went into that. I think it's well presented, and I think we just go back to the drawing board and learn from our past experience.
Thank you, Councilmember Harrington. Yes, Councilmember Ding.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, so, first of all, I want to clear the vendors. They already have find that these 10 vendor yet or not?
No, none of the vendors have been selected yet. That won't come until at least the beginning of the new year, when the operator is submitting his vendor list to the LA County for permitting. And so we won't know the actual specific vendors until the new year comes around.
So, actually, find a vendor, we need to spend like 3 months to find a vendor. That's meaning.
That would be left up to the operator to find the vendors. I would go as far as saying he knows exactly who he's going to be reaching out to, but he doesn't specifically know who those vendors are yet, whether it's farmers, crafters, or even the hot food vendors.
Okay. The second question is, find a vendor, is it because the vendor need to produce the fresh fruit or vegetable? Probably the season they start maybe I think the springtime, right? So is it like this kind of vendor should be have some reserve amount, especially for our farmers market, right? For my understanding, right?
Yeah, I'm not aware of the operations for the farmers in terms of reserving produce for events. And so that would be a specific question that I can ask Farm Habits and have that back to the council the next time we meet.
Okay, thank you. And for the equipment rental, so I saw that some costs for our chair, everything. So is it we don't use our existing the chair table, or we? For my understanding, every month would be like cost $400 for the rental.
Yeah, and so we can certainly, as I've mentioned in the report, we can either take the approach of renting the tables and chairs, or we can purchase all the tables and chairs that we need. And there's a dollar figure for either one. It's either $400 a month to rent every week, or we can spend approximately a little over $3,000, or about $3,000 to purchase all the tables and chairs that we need. And we can repurpose those tables and chairs for all the other events that we have throughout the city.
So I think your rental is maybe possible. We don't have space to storage at our table and a chair, right? If we have, I think maybe rather than to rent, we purchase, so we can even like I think for the future, some community event we also can rent out to some event they want to use it. Maybe more economic way to do that.
I would agree.
Okay.
The storage is an issue, and so renting would be ideal.
Yeah.
If that's what the council is looking to do.
Okay, all right. But like then talking about marketing. So currently, if you don't have the like vendor, so only marketing just say next year we have the farmers market. So you don't have any like some, if you have. If they can find some like famous vendor or whatever vendor, probably help you to do the advertising for the marketing materials. So say, hey, what kind of vendor we have? So probably more attractive people expecting, so they willing to coming. So I hope that's my suggestion to, yeah. Okay. All right, okay. Yeah, that's it. Thank you. Yeah.
May I?
Councilmember Chen, please.
Yes, to Councilman Ding's point about the renting versus purchasing, I mean, right now, for all the regular events we have, we own those tables, right? The ones we put out there, or do we do a combo of both? Every time we do an event?
I'm looking for Rebecca. I don't see her.
For my experience, we have I don't know how many total we have. Some because I involved the event rental, so I think we probably have like 80 or 100 chair, and I don't know, maybe less than 10 like
the brown tables.
Yeah, the table and kind of more. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I was just curious, because I'm thinking, I mean, it wouldn't be like, I mean, I'm sure the city owns some tables and chairs and things, so we wouldn't have to rent or purchase everything from scratch. It would just kind of fill the gap to the amount of capacity that we would want.
And we can certainly do that.
Then the other question is, another question about timing, that if we are, like we said, the best thing to do would be to wait till next spring, until it actually physically gets going. Do we need to sign the contract with Farmer Mark now, or what is the timing on that? Or is that the way his business works, that we have to lock it down now, or do we have a leeway of time, or how does that physically work, or logistically?
That's a good point, given that we're not starting the actual farmers market until March, April of 2025. There isn't really an urgency to sign this agreement yet. Farm Habits has been launching surveys without this agreement in place, because that's kind of their strategy. They're actually looking to participate in dumpling and beer by having a booth at the event. They have made that commitment before this agreement, and so there's a lot of moves and decisions that they're making outside of this agreement just to better this event.
Right, so he's doing his pre-work or research work for free, sort of, in prep.
Correct.
And he's doing prep work without actually being paid technically, because the legal document's not signed yet.
Right, but the benefit of signing the agreement now is we can then jump in as a partner, given the agreement, and start using our social media to market the event.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, just to clarify, so for us, just the marketing, the cost, we don't pay them anything until the farmers market started.
Yeah, and we don't pay Farm Habits at all directly. We pay social media sites for paid ads. We take in-house, or we absorb the cost for mailers or flyers, and we do that in-house, or we can contract out to do that type of service. But we do not pay Farm Habits at all for any part of this, outside of purchasing equipment to supplement the event, as well as marketing for the event. That's all we do.
So one more question. If worst case, if until next spring, they cannot bring all the vendor, what do we can do? What's the result? If just in case they cannot make it, yeah. But we already spent a market, the cost too, right?
Yeah, and just to put into sort of the perspective here in terms of when we're going to be starting marketing, we're not going to start marketing tomorrow for the event. We don't know who the vendors are. We don't know any of the logistics yet in terms of how many vendors specifically are going to be at the event. Until we get real details about the events from Farm Habits, we won't start really moving on purchasing anything until then, whether it's equipment or renting equipment, what have you. I think the best strategy for marketing is to understand who the vendors are going to be. And so we won't know that until, as I mentioned, the beginning of next year. And so between now, even if we sign this agreement tomorrow, we're not starting to spend any money until we actually get concrete details about the event from Farm Habits.
Is it a contract have it like maybe monthly follow-up reports asking the vendor to, what's going on, what's the progress if they already did it? So is it possible can asking that too? It's just schedule like each month, so we can know what's going on, right?
We can certainly do that, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Ding. I guess my only follow-up question is, so since we are not, the city's not paying Farm Habit, they get paid by the vendors?
Correct.
That's how they make their money?
That's correct.
Okay. So, okay, very good. Thank you.
Anyone else? No? Okay, good. Well, thank you, Aldo. Thank you for the great report and hard work. So, Aldo, do you, our grand opening for the farmers market, would that be on March 29, 2025?
That we don't know yet. According to Farm Habits, they're looking to launch it March, April, around that timeline.
Yeah, because my plumber coming that morning.
Okay. I've noted not to start that day.
Well, the reason I'm sharing that because that is one of the stories that was being told by our former president, Ronald Reagan, that he said the Soviet Union, long time ago, they delivered the vehicle, automobile, that 10 years. So whoever purchased the vehicle today, they get the car in 10 years. So when the buyer, they put down the down payments and the salesperson say, okay, so come back in see you in 10 years. Then he said, is it morning or afternoon? He said, what's the difference, 10 years anyway? He said, well, because my plumber come in the morning. I got to tell you that how frustrated when I see that we have to wait until 193 days from today, we will see another farmers market happen. When I have listed a bunch of questions here, and I was expecting that Mr. Anderson or some representative coming from the farm habit that can answer that. And I was anticipating that he was just showing us saying, you know what, I have all 30, this is a list that we have all the vendors here. This is who, and this is the produce, and this is where they're coming from. We can start from which day, so we are ready to sign the agreement. But to me, it sounds like the city of St. Gabriel is going to sign the agreement and sit aside for 193 days, and we don't know if that will be happen or if we will be success on our farmers market 2.0. To me, I think it's very important. It's just like a sense of, as a business person, I feel, I don't know if this is correct way to interpret it, that we don't even have, Mr. Mark Anderson even just absent today, that we do not have anyone to ask the questions and what's your strategy. And in the report, it shows that Farm Habit has, demonstrate extensive experience for 14 years in operating the markets in like Playa Vista, Westwood Village, Costa Mesa, Newport Beach, West Hollywood, South Park, Los Angeles, and Inglewood. And such a successful farmers market operator, and we have to wait 193 days if we luckily will have the farmers market started the end of March 2025. To me, I mean, it's not about the time we want to get that prepared, but it also shows that if they really want to do business with the city, I mean, from my perspective, my point will be saying they would like to do business with us, and we would like to give them opportunity to each other. And however, that I don't really see it's really a sincere attitude that to helping us or helping themselves or helping their vendors to find a good market. I really don't see if I will be proposing something will be happening. 183 days will be defined as half years, and this is more than that. And for us, I mean, when we post the notice to our community and say we just temporarily suspend or temporarily close for our farmers market, I don't believe that anyone will think that will be happen. It could be like a few months, but we will never think that will be more than 6 months. It's just a little bit too long, and I don't really see a bright future that will be construct a good idea, because we have to ask, oh, do we need to pay before we actually start the service? We have to worry about once we have the contract that tied with this company, and we don't even know if they can perform a good work. That's the problem. I would love to sign the agreement with the company that will be demonstrating that they have the capability, list a full list of the vendors. And I understand that we are not asking much than other farmers market. We are just asking that if they have done so many for 14 years for different cities, they don't have a list.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
if I may, have a
Please.
discussion with you. I would disagree with you a bit that way, because as Councilman Harrington said, it's just the annual cycle. And even if we do start it now, the vegetables don't come in until spring, and that's just naturally the best time to start. And so that's the first thing. And second thing is that, especially as we were talking, we just mentioned, even if we sign this contract with Farm Habit, we don't, one positive thing is that the city doesn't have to pay anything. They make their money through the vendors. So it's not like the city's losing any money. So that's kind of my point.
Right, thank you. Thank you for that. Well, so maybe I got spoiled by the supermarket, because I buy stuff from supermarket. I never have a consideration about the season is different, so I cannot buy anything there.
You're part of that era that you want it now.
Oh, no, not now.
I think you're the youngest on here.
No, actually, it's just like a little high blood pressure these days. But to me, this is so important that we understand that how our partners will be helping us on this project. To me, this is important to everyone, to every single our community. But at this point, I don't have confidence, because I don't even have a chance to talk to see the people who are representing the farm habits. And I really think that before we can sign something, we may have more questions. I do have a bunch of questions here for them, and said, okay, how about other market? How you think that all the markets that you're operating now, which one will be fit us the most? So you probably have a good list, and you can select from them saying, okay, I don't believe that they will close down their market just because the winter. But at least, I mean, we know that who they will be inviting to our city, and who are they using that, and what else we can do as a partner. We want to make sure the farmers market will be a successful one. So that's why this is very difficult for me. I mean, even I realize that it really spent a lot of our staff time to research, and I believe that it must be some reason that we have chosen farm habits at this point. But if possible, maybe we can just, maybe next council meeting that we can invite him to meet us again, so we can have more direct questions, and we can get a better picture before we can sign any lease, any agreement with them. This is my 2 cents.
No, and I would say, Mr. Mayor, that I'm comfortable with authorizing this now, but I'm also comfortable if you'd like to continue this item until Mr. Anderson can make time to be here, and so I'm okay either way. So
It doesn't have to be Mr. Anderson.
or one of his representatives, or someone who can answer the questions that you have for. So.
Give us more confidence when we are having a budget. Even it may not be a really huge budget for their company, but we want to make sure the money will be used wisely. That's why I really don't know where should I start it with that, because it seems like I'm still don't know who that person is, and what service. Even that is so. The packet, it looks really great. I mean, nice pictures, nice.
It's very pretty. Yeah, nice
It's
graphics.
pretty.
Yeah.
But I'm,
graphics
because
designer.
aging, so I'm become more logical now.
Well, I was going to mention that I too agree. If we can, I mean, we'll have to wait till spring anyway. What's one more meeting or a couple meetings, I guess. But perhaps you can send your questions in advance, and even if the operator can't be here, or at least a representative, maybe they can at least be on the phone, but they can have your questions. I still like to have my question answered, which is on the termination clause. That could change. So, I would be open just to delaying it or continuing this conversation.
Continuance?
And for 2 weeks, because we don't have a meeting. Let's see, where are we? We're in September. Well, we have 2 more meetings. And then November's, the first meeting's canceled. Or dark. So if we can have, is it possible, Aldo, to have this for the next meeting?
Oh, yeah, yes.
Okay.
We can.
And if anyone else on council has additional questions, but at least, we all need to be on board with this. And so I think it is important to have your questions answered.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, so the question is, sorry, Mayor, thank you. I agree to like a more detail from the farmer bit. We can asking them a detailed question too. So I agree that we don't want to lock the contract and then we don't have choice. That's my concern too. So is it during this 1 month? Is it have another alternative way to find another vendor to help us? Maybe we can open 1 more month to let someone else if they're interesting to do the farmers market for us.
Well, he already has 2 other vendors, but he didn't think it was a good fit.
This company is the best.
It's the best fit,
Best fit
plus
for
it's
us.
strategic. It looks to be very extensive, much more than what we did with the 1.0, I guess, version.
And then again, like we said, even if we get another vendor, a operator,
Okay.
It's the time of year where we don't get good vegetables anyway. So, you don't get good product until spring. And then also, if we choose another operator, they still need to take time to set up and do research and things. So, it's going to be about the same time anyway.
The question is maybe not just these 3, maybe somewhere else, maybe they don't know, they're interesting to apply. So even because we don't have a contract yet, I just want to have if somewhere else have this kind of opportunity, why we don't welcome to them? We can do the research to compare with the farmer beer, you know. That's because we have the 1 month extended. So that's, I don't know, so we just limit it just for this vendor only, or we can open for third one, fifth one to coming if they're interesting. But sometimes they don't know too, right?
They've already done the open bidding, but I think the issue here is that they're not present, so we can't answer the questions. So I don't think we can really decide to go out, start all over again, you know, from scratch, until we at least have the vendor in front of us and have those questions. Because by the end of the conversation, we may agree with what our staff is saying, which is, this is the best fit.
Yeah, I agree too, but just like our
But we can't
concern,
go out.
But mayor concern, if just in case it's their failure, what should we to do? So just give to us, the city, have the more opportunity, 1 more month, why not? But I just, all the council can agree, right? If we say just we lock in this 1 month, just only for this vendor, when waited to, they're coming to answer our question, it's fine if most council member agree. But I just want to open mind, so another option to, like, if someone else interested in that, so we should be door open for them. That's my point. Yeah, thank you.
I have 2 comments on that. Number one, we would have to RFP that according to our procurement policy. An RFP is a process that's going to take a long time. And from a PR look, it doesn't look good to have a vendor in one hand and then go out to an RFP
Okay.
on the other hand. It just doesn't look good from an organizational point of view.
Okay.
We should either say yes or no on this, and if we say no, go to RFP.
Okay.
Don't try and hold one in one hand and try and do the other. 'Cause it just, I can tell you, agencies that do that, their RFP responses go way down really fast.
It's like juggling girlfriends, right?
I wouldn't go that far.
Okay, so that's why I want to discuss.
Yeah. So if we want to say no, that's one thing. We can't say maybe, and then we're going to look at our options with them, because they would more than likely be one of the respondents to the RFP.
Okay.
They've already gone through that one. So
Okay.
I just think from a policy standpoint, that doesn't look good on us.
Okay.
And they've already done some of the work, I mean, at no charge, the surveying and all that. So I think they've shown goodwill. I think we should show goodwill too.
Right, yeah.
At least give them an opportunity to answer the.
Yeah.
I think inviting them back is the way.
Okay. Okay. So it's a conclusion. It's we open 1 month for they can come in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Okay. All right.
So
Would you like to make any comments on this?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have anything to add other than we will bring them back as soon as we can. If they're available in 2 weeks, we'll have them at that meeting. If it takes a month, we'll have them at that meeting, and I hope you'll feel the confidence we do when you have a chance to meet them in person.
I think we are so fortunate that we have second chance to make this happen and make this right. So that's why I believe that we should, we actually more sincere, and we would like to have the partner to show their attitude that this is the way that we want to conduct a business. So it doesn't mean that I want to turn it down and I want to deny it right away. To me, it's more like a conversation that at least that we can see your face, and that's us ask some questions. We will just get to know more, and maybe he needs another maybe another 275 days. Go for it, maybe. But I mean, at least that has to convince us. With it's very logic.
No, I agree. So do we need a motion for continuance? No, we'll just
leave it.
table it? Okay.
Okay, no
Thank
vote.
you.
Okay, well, thank you very much. So next item, please.
New business item A, report and recommendations from City Council Ad Hoc Subcommittee. City Manager Lazaretto will make the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I will make this very brief, but you'll recall that about 3 months ago, the City Council appointed Vice Mayor Menchaca and Councilmember Ding to an ad hoc committee. The committee and I met probably 8 times with different members of the community. Probably out of those 8 meetings, there was a total of 15 or 18 people that we met with. We tried to include a very broad cross-sampling of folks. We met with a couple of clergy members, believe it or not. We met with representatives from nonprofits that provide services and outreach to the LGBTQ plus community. We met with former HERE commissioners. We met with commissioners from other commissions. We also met with folks who spoke at our past council meetings and talked about the LGBTQ programs that we have discussed in the past. And after all of those meetings, we came up as a group, the three of us, with recommendations that we think are obvious, things that we probably should have been doing in the past, things that we can implement very easily with current staffing, but things that we think will have a marketed effect on our LGBTQ community and the support that we provide. We have 6 recommendations that were laid out in the staff report. And the common thing among those 6 recommendations is that we would outreach to our service providers similarly to the way we do with our current service providers. So for example, for our anti-Asian hate campaign where we engaged AYC, for our help throughout COVID where we reached out to Herald Christian, for our current case manager with Chinatown Service Center. I could go on and on. La Casa provides such immense help to our Latino community. And all of those groups, we have brought them into the fold. We invite them to our events. We have them on our list of service providers. We do everything we can to help the communities that they represent. But for whatever reason in the past, we have not specifically done this for the LGBTQ community. So with that, those 6 recommendations range from adding those service providers to our marketing information, inviting those folks to have booths at our events, similarly as we do to our other nonprofit service providers, adding that information and resources to our flyers and website. And really that is it, with the exception of also continuing, the bias and unconscious bias, and diversity training for our employees, which we've done several times in the past, but the idea is to formally continue that and make sure we have that training for our employees. So with that, I think we would open it up to the council for any questions, and I know Vice Mayor Menchaca and Councilmember Ding both have things to add to that, but that was the crux of what our journey was, and that's where we bring ourselves tonight.
Thank you, Mark. Does any council member have a question for Mark to clarify? No? I see none. So Chief Secret, do we have any public comment?
We do, Mr. Mayor. Erlinda Romo.
Good evening again. I spoke earlier this year on this matter. Thank you for addressing the LGBTQ plus issue, but the HERE Commission did more than that, and I anticipate that just dealing with this issue is not going to heal the rift in the community. It's something that you took 5 dedicated people, adults, huge brain trust, plus 2 high schoolers, and you basically voted to take that process away. That being the fact, how do you move forward? How do you address the rest of the things on their work plan? That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Our next speaker is Vicky Goto.
Good evening. I'm Vicky Goto, the former chair of the HERE Commission. I've read the ad hoc committee's report and recommendations and find them to be a complete failure. Aside from recommending what the city should have already been doing, it demonstrates zero commitment other than passing its responsibilities to meet the safety and mental health needs of the LGBTQ plus community off to others. It does not include any funding or resources for LGBTQ plus serving nonprofits. There's no partnership with the San Gabriel Valley LGBTQ Center for the 2025 SGV Pride Tour as was pledged in their meeting, or any community education about the issues LGBTQ+ folks face. It does not acknowledge in any way the need for safe, affirming spaces, and in fact proposes that the San Gabriel Police Force be the liaison to LGBTQ youth, demonstrating a total lack of understanding of the historical mistrust between the LGBTQ+ community and police. Characterizing the closed-door meetings with hand-picked individuals and organizations as an open dialogue and a listening tour is absurd. This report is the product of 2 council members who are not part of the LGBTQ community. They did not allow organizations which specifically asked to review any recommendations before they went to the council to provide any feedback or input whatsoever. The complete lack of transparency in the process without a single public meeting shows that this ad hoc committee cares nothing about building trust with the community or meeting the needs of its constituents. This report is full of vague generalizations and empty lip service. Let's be very clear, this council was never open to supporting the LGBTQ+ community, and nothing has changed. This report is like putting a Band-Aid on a broken arm. It's useless. So once again, I'm calling on all voters in the city of San Gabriel to make a commitment today to vote by November 5th, either by mail, early voting in person, or on election day. You have the power to replace every single person up here and elect representatives who will listen to your concerns and be leaders in taking real action to address them. Young people out there, today is National Voter Registration Day, so get registered and vote because your future depends on you. There's a candidate forum on Thursday, October 3rd at the Mission Playhouse Padillo Room at 6:30 p.m. This is your opportunity to meet the candidates for City Council and ask the questions that are important to you. Get involved and stay involved. These are the people who will be making decisions for this city, and if you don't like what this council is doing, you have the power to change its direction. Use it.
Okay, thank you. That's it? Okay, so it's now time for council member to discuss. Who would like to start?
I would like to start.
Yes, Vice Mayor.
So first of all, I want to thank Councilmember Ding and our city manager, Mark Lazaretto, for spending really meaningful time with each of these groups. And I just had a quick statement that I wanted to make just to summarize, because I would like to hear from the remaining council. Our one-on-one meetings, which were warmly referred to as a listening tour, allowed all voices to be heard. There was a wide range of opinions, recommendations, and partnership opportunities. Every meeting was civil and engaging. I appreciated everyone who took the time to participate in this open dialogue. That's who San Gabriel is. It was a great opportunity to know more about services and programs offered in our region. There was a strong interest in moving forward as we find better ways to support our diversity and specifically our LGBTQ+ community. So with that, I'm going to pass it along because I really would like to hear from the remaining council. But this was a very helpful listening tour, and I really think these recommendations are just the start, and I see it being built upon. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Vice Mayor. And who's next? Councilmember Ding?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, actually, I just, for these couple months, it's a whole story. And when we make this decision on the ad hoc committee, so that time I hear the both sides don't want an ad hoc committee. I even support it or disagreed it. Personally, at that time, I think we don't need an ad hoc committee. But interesting, for me, myself, God gave me the willing to vote a yes for the ad hoc committee. And then I find it, and thanks to Mark and the coordinator and the Vice Mayor Machenka to join we sometimes every 1 week we have like 2 or 3 meetings. So It's especially for the LGBTQ, the organization, like we mentioned the 3 organization on the report. It's really good. They organization, most of the organizations say, yeah, because ad hoc committee, it's open dialogue with the LGBTQ, the issue, to help us understand each other, help each other. So we also want to open mind, even like we also, you have the chance to communicate with a former commissioner or like some different group people for us, just listen. What do they feel? What do they think about our city needed? So that's then a committee with our ad hoc committee. We definitely want to like give to our LGBTQ as more resource from their organization. Each organization have a different the function too. Some is for the kids, some is for the parents. You know, it's really like some organizations, it's especially they want a memory like HIV, the victim, right? Okay. So for me, it's because this ad hoc committee, it gave me the open dialogue and can have chance to see all the different people, the angle to watch the LGBTQ, help us. I think this direction, we recommendation, it's still want to continue open dialogue for the LGBTQ and hope their organization can bring the more resource to help our young kids, help the family to have the good resource. Because one thing I just want our city resident to understand it. City resource is a limit. So we should be like use like our already have the nonprofit organization like China Service Center, Hero Question Center, and for our hate crime or mental health, and the AYC also have the hate crime. So we can like similar style, so we can have the like LGBTQ San Gabriel Valley, yeah, I had to remember all the organizations. They are doing good. I really like give me the really impressed. They have this kind of passion to help the LGBTQ, the people, to help them solve their fear. They are some like need help. So that's why I hope the rest of the council member to like continue to like number 6. We continue to do the our open dialogue and help this LGBTQ group, and plus like hate crime and the mental health. All the resources, if we can find it, to help our resident. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Ding. And who else would like to make any comments? Okay,
I'm fine with all 6 recommendations.
I see. Okay. And how about Councilmember Chen?
I'm also good with the recommendations, and thank you to Vice Mayor Menchaca and Councilman Ding and Mark for the hard work you put into it. And yeah, so thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. So, okay, so ad hoc subcommittee's report has been received and no vote on this item. Okay, well, thank you, Mark, and thank you, Vice Mayor, and thank you, Councilmember Ding. So next item, please.
Hedge height discussion. Planning Manager Samantha Tawassart will make the presentation.
Okay, so anyone need a house break? No? Young person? I pretend try to be young, but okay. Then let's have a 10 minutes break. Okay, so now it's time 8:40. Okay, the meeting resumed at 8:52 p.m. Next item, please.
Hedge height discussion. Planning Manager Samantha Tuisart will make the presentation.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. The item before the City Council this evening is a discussion item on hedge heights. There we go. Currently, hedge heights, and the purpose of this comment was received at the last City Council meeting. The council had directed staff to agendize this item. So currently, the hedge heights are regulated similar to walls and fences. There are hedge height standards for residential and non-residential zones. And generally, hedges are defined as a fence or a boundary that's formed by a dense row of shrubs or trees. This discussion, since the comment was about hedge heights in residential areas, will only focus on that, which is heights in the residential zones. And this includes R1 single family, R1A limited two-family residence, R2 low density multiple family residence, and R3 multiple high family residence. The maximum height of any fence, wall, and hedge is 4 feet within the front yard area and 6 feet along the sides and the rear areas. Trees, shrubs, hedges in the public right-of-way are regulated by Chapter 95 of the Municipal Code, and no person shall plant, move, remove, replace any tree, shrub, hedge within the public right-of-way without a permit. It is also the responsibility of property owners to maintain the trees and shrubs planted within the planting area immediately adjacent to their respective properties. And the municipal code does not address hedge heights in the public right-of-way, but if a plant is determined to impede the vision of the public on any street, then the plant would need to be trimmed or removed to remedy such a condition. A survey of neighboring cities was conducted, and similar to the city of San Gabriel, hedge heights are regulated similar to, in a manner that's similar to fences and walls. And in that sense, the height limits are also similar to the walls and fences. And cities generally allows for heights that are similar to San Gabriel, which again is the 4 feet within the front yard and then 6 along the rear and the side. So generally, not just in the region, but throughout many local agencies, those are the standard heights. Again, this is some of the comments that staff has just made. And this is a sample site plan that's typically provided to the public or to the property owners to help to illustrate. For fences and walls, this is a requirement for property owners to provide back to the city when an application for a fence or a wall is made. But it also helps to show that this also applies to hedges as well, but permits are not required for hedges on private property. But the hash line, it indicates where the 4 feet limitation is, and then the darker areas would be 6 feet. And then there's a difference between an interior lot versus a corner lot. So this is an illustration to show how the regulations are currently applied. So again, this is a discussion item before the City Council this evening, and staff is seeking direction on whether to leave the existing regulations in place to discuss increasing heights, or to remove height limitations, and then or to also establish height limitations within the public right-of-way and sidewalk areas. And no changes are proposed to walls and fences as part of this discussion. Currently, there are many existing hedge heights within the city, and any proposed changes this evening would apply to hedges within the residential zone. And this completes staff's presentation.
Thank you, Samantha. Does any council member has question for Samantha to clarify? No? So, Chief City Clerk, do we have any public comment?
I do have one speaker's card from Doug Richter.
He left. Yes. So, Okay, so now it's now time for the council to discuss. Who would like to start? Yes, Councilmember Harrington.
Thank you, Mayor. I think this item, it's come up a few times since I've been on council, and I've dealt with it several times with neighbors and just different things over the years. And we did get the public comment, and I think the issue to me is one of, like, there's no one-size-fits-all answer, and our code is very rigid. It's 6 feet. It doesn't take into account, now we have a lot more two-story buildings, so what good is a 6-foot-high hedge gonna do for you? If there's a two-story, or sometimes higher, that abuts residential looking right down into your property. That's one issue. I understand the safety issue, but it's also, I mean, we kind of have to balance safety versus privacy. You know, difference between a side yard or a corner lot is a significant difference. I mean, if my neighbor had, I have a 2-story house, so if they had a 15-foot-high hedge or trees there, it wouldn't bother me. In fact, we have, obviously, trees, people, when they see that they can't have hedges, they just grow big trees that block everything anyway. So it's like, okay, you don't let me have a hedge, I'll just throw these giant trees, which sometimes can be worse because of invasive roots and other things. But there's almost always a solution around a code section like this. So what I got from the public comment was that it's more of an unequal application, because why am I the only one getting this? Because I have a neighbor that complained, basically. I can tell you, when I walk through the neighborhoods, 6 feet is, I mean, I'm not that tall, I can't see over a 6-foot hedge, but it's not that high either. 6 feet is not high as far as screening. I can kind of like see into almost any yard if it was actually 6 feet. When you're walking down any one of our streets, you go past 2 houses, one of them is not in compliance with our code right now. I mean, you're gonna see something over 6 feet, either a CMU wall, hedges, trees, shrubs, whatever you want to call them. So I think if a code section is good anywhere, it should be good everywhere. It's kind of, and we should not be using our code as a weapon. It should be used as to kind of to ensure we have uniformity and good, good application for our city to maintain the standards of our community. And so for me, I would be either okay with having a little more height allowed, and it depends obviously on the situation. I wouldn't want that on corners, and I wouldn't want to change any of those regulations. But as to between houses and for screening, I'm fine with a higher height. I think that would make sense. I don't know when the code was written in, and I do understand what some of our surrounding cities do, but I can tell you, obviously it's not scientific, but when you walk in our neighborhoods and you look between any 2 houses, I can guarantee you that almost all the shrubbery is more than 6 feet high. I mean, you can see, and when there's not shrubbery, there's trees, like rows of trees, and at what point does that become a shrub? When you have like 15 pines in a row that are 2 feet apart, they're all obviously separate trees, but you know what it is, it's screening, and some of those are 25, 30 feet high. According to this, we'd have to start cutting them at 6 feet, which would kind of look silly. They look really nice. Sometimes they're well groomed, they look nice. So that's kind of my take on this. It's more of, once again, balancing as well as application of the code. We shouldn't have a code that's so easily to say, oh, I don't like my neighbor, I'm reporting them. It's like, okay, then we just become, I guess, the tool of people that are fighting each other, and we're stuck in the middle because we can't say, no, we're not enforcing the code, but at the same time, we don't enforce it on the other 22 people in the neighborhood, just the one that has the neighbor dispute. So that's kind of where, if we have codes that are a little, I would say, a little more lax on that, then it's less of a weapon. It's more like, okay, you're 10 feet and the code is 9 feet. Okay, I'll cut that top foot off, whatever. And then I think it leads to, honestly, less time for our code enforcement to go out and have to respond to a lot of these, because that more of our city is in compliance. So we either, I'm not in preference of leaving something on the code that could be used like that, and I think this is a good opportunity for us to say, hey, let's come up with a height that is reasonable, because obviously we don't want 30-foot high hedges everywhere. And, you know, there's got to be some reasonable, but I think 6 is a little low. I don't know what the proper height is. I would even take staff's advice on that.
Okay, thank you.
May I ask a question? I agree with you. What if, can we just say unlimited? I mean, do we have to set a specific?
I don't know the legal answer to that. The one problem with that is once you put it into discretion, it can once again be applied unequally. Because if we would have to have some sort of standard, I think.
Okay.
I mean,
'Cause I mean-
I don't know if that has to be height. It has to be maybe maintenance, as long as it like neat appearance and, you know, trimmed and not like whole. So obviously the biggest thing that I see, the biggest offenders are the ones where the shrub is going, you got a, you know, 4-foot sidewalk and the shrub's going 3.5 feet into the sidewalk. It's growing laterally, not up. Those are the biggest offenders to me, like on a walk, because my wife and I will have to go like,
Yeah.
dogs are going this way, we're going. So I think more of it is the trimming and the neatness of it.
But does it talk about trimming and neatness and all that? I think it's just about,
There's a requirement in the code to keep it trimmed.
is that true, Samantha? No, okay.
I was just reading it.
Well, it says care for and maintain 95.04.
Yes, Vice Mayor, under public nuisance, which is 98.02, it states to maintain the premises with substantial, or what is defined as not maintaining landscaping is a lack of cultivation, irrigation, fertilization, trimming of trees and lawn shrubs, vines, and other ground covers, and the lack of let's see, where the areas to be maintained are viewable by the public from the public right-of-way or adjoining properties, and where such conditions would have a tendency to depreciate the aesthetics and the property values of the surrounding property. So that's existing language within public nuisance.
Yeah, and to me, of those two, height versus maintenance, the maintenance I think is much more important. Because you can have a very nice looking, I mean, like I said, if you go down Del Mar or Roses, you see a lot of these properties with very, very tall hedges, shrubs, but they're well maintained. They look nice. You wouldn't give it a second look driving by, walking by. It adds to the character of the neighborhood. I mean, you're actually just greening the neighborhood instead of, you know, seeing just concrete everywhere and brick everywhere. I think it looks nice. But that's something, obviously, if our code says X, Y, Z, our code enforcement has to enforce X, Y, Z. So if we take some of that out of there, as a policy, now the code enforcement, when they get a complaint, will say, well, we've revised our code, as long as it's maintained, and we'll go look and make sure it's maintained to the satisfaction of the city, then we're gonna, you know, we're gonna allow it. I think that's more of, I would say, a reasonable approach than 6 feet, because I mean, I wouldn't want to be the code enforcement getting 10 calls like, oh, this neighbor complains, so I'm gonna complain against that neighbor, and I'm gonna complain. It's like almost like a chain reaction.
Well, since Samantha's here already, what is your recommendation for the height? Because I just, in my mind, is just, well, it's unlimited unless it's, I just can't come up with a magical number, because it seems so arbitrary too, but based on your research, what is that number that's been selected by other cities?
No, again, just based on reviewing codes from other cities. Again, cities borrow from each other 4 feet, 6 feet. That's your standard. But as far as enforcement, that's where there isn't the resource to consistently enforce throughout all cities.
So rear and side yards is 6 feet?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I agree. It needs to be higher than that, but I just don't know what the arbitrary number is. Well, could I continue on, Mayor, since I've already started?
Actually, can I, a little comment on that. I wasn't even thinking of an unlimited height. I was always just thinking of we should have height. I'm fine with neatness. I mean, like if your wall is let's say you have not even a hedge. If you have there's a lot of big difference between a wall that's newer or maintained well and one that's in compliance because it's 6 feet, but it's really like leaning and cracked. And I have a couple of those right adjacent to my neighborhood where technically they're in compliance, but man, do they make the neighborhood look bad. And so If you have the double whammy of it being really tall and being out of compliance, I think the out of compliance is more the look than the height.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Before I start with the questions on the residential, I do think at some point we need to address the non-residential, because I know, according to the report, since the public comment was focused on residential, that's what this report is doing, which is completely understandable. But there are some non-residential that have the same issue. So again, for consistency, we can have another hedge height 2.0 discussion, I guess. So I just wanted to bring that up. Let's see. Regarding the public right-of-way, I guess we're silent on this issue. Is that correct? So is that another discussion that we need to do, or how would that work? Because, I mean, there's a public safety issue here with the public right-of-way. Right now, right now for the corners, it says 2 feet, but we really don't address it, right? Would that be something later that we can also address, or how would you, because it's mentioned, but then it's mentioned, well, it doesn't address it. So I wasn't quite sure what you wanted us to do, make a decision tonight on that, or what was
The recommendation is to provide comments. There are instances where the hedge is not located on private property, so the code section on the 6 and 4 would not apply. And it would be subject to the city's review, that if it is a hazard of some kind, then the city can address that. Otherwise, the council can set a standard. Those are uncommon, less common than on private property, but they do exist. So that can be a part of the city council's discussion this evening, whether to define heights in the public right-of-way or to, again, leave the code as it is, subject to the city's review, depending on whether or not there's a hazardous condition.
Okay.
So when you say in the public right-of-way, is that something where this is city property, or it's like median, or?
That encompasses the city's property, so essentially what is not private property. What is in front of private property is public right-of-way.
So we have hedges or shrubs or fences that are out of compliance, the city does?
In the particular case.
Well, the code doesn't apply to the city, right?
Right, so heights are not defined.
Correct, okay.
Mark, you have something to say?
I was just going to say, I think we're talking about the parkway in the front of people's house. The one you're talking about, it happens to be in the rear of the house, and that's on city right-of-way.
And we're not maintaining it, though.
So I guess for those, it's just strictly if it's a public safety issue. So that's how we're addressing it at this point. Okay. Well, whatever we decide tonight, I know there are always exceptions. You got the corner lots, and then you got those houses that they call the flipped homes, which I think is,
Reverse corners?
well, I guess the front is the back. It's one of those unique situations. Is that what it's called? Key lots? So those are some of the exceptions that are outside of this.
Yes, it would be. There are houses in the city where they have a front yard on one street and a rear yard on the adjacent street or the street behind. And those would be subject to the same codes that you saw on the screen. Key lots, as Councilman Harrington pointed out, are a different animal, but we do have those streets that have rear yards but are on the street like every other front-facing house along that street.
So how are those addressed in this code?
We don't differentiate between those, so we've made the judgment that if it's a rear yard, then it's a rear yard height. So if council made changes and said 8 feet is the new height, we would allow those to have 8 feet. We would probably recommend to council that they be set back from the curb just a little bit, so you don't have, right at the back of the curb, an 8-foot-high hedge. But certainly with it being the rear yard, those people would like that same privacy that other folks have in their rear yard. And I should point, I think Sam pointed it out at the beginning, but just to remind everybody, whatever direction you all give us tonight will be coming back in the form of a ordinance or a further discussion. So nothing that no decisions we make tonight are set in stone. So we'll have time to talk about them, maybe with further illustrations and things like that.
Okay. So I'm just trying to read the recommendation. So yeah, so just comments and directions. It says maintaining hedge heights, increasing heights, or deleting requirements. At this point, I mean, I'd love to hear any suggestions for the hedge height. I can't think of any arbitrary number. But
I'm still fine with the leading requirements. I mean, as far as height, not the maintenance, not the care, all that should maintain. But I mean, I don't think we're all of a sudden gonna have chaos if we delete our heights. I don't think maybe.
So are you okay with the unlimited? Or?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Well, that's my proposal.
I'm fine with that simply because it takes that whole your hedges. Let's get the ruler out. And it's not, I don't think maintaining a hedge or a tree is subjective. You can, worst case scenario, if it does get down to our code enforcement, say, well, that's completely brown, it's a fire hazard, or there's a limb hanging, that's, a fall hazard. That's, to me, is not subjective. I mean, it's really hard to say, oh, this is perfectly fine, and one person say, no, it's a complete hazard. I think we would defer to our code enforcement to decide whether something's a hazard or not.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice Mayor. And Councilmember Chin?
Yeah, I would agree with my colleagues that it is much more, or should be much more about maintenance and safety and the neatness over a set hard number. So, yeah, that I would agree with their assessment and that go that direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Chin. Councilmember Dean.
Just asking the Samantha, why standard want to do the front yard 4 feet and the backyard 6 feet? What's the concern that time? What's the reason?
What potentially set those limitations? If staff had to take a guess, it would have to do with sightlines and visibilities. In particular, if you're backing out a driveway, the 4 feet may be at your maximum limit so that you can still see the sidewalk while backing out your vehicle. That would just be a guess.
Okay. But recently I also hear our community, because also the public safety concern. Some, like a resident, property owner, they feel even front yard, they still feel it's 4 feet too lower. Theft people or burglary people, they're easy to climb. So they willing have the 5 feet or 6 feet. That's, I hear about it. Okay. So for the back, 6 feet, maybe right now technology also easy to climb in too. So probably it's we need a current recent situation. Probably it's I agree to increase the hedge, and but when you mentioned because the 4 feet and the 6 feet, it's because also for the another safety piece can see it right. If 4 feet, can I have a suggestion? Like if you more than 4 feet, for example, we can allow to 6 feet, but more than 4 feet to the 6 feet, we should be let them do like a see-through the material, like iron bar or like also still considered for the safety purpose. But the hedge is higher; it still can protect the homeowner concern, another public safety issue. I don't know. That's another option too. Either like for the backyard, maybe we can put on like your material. You can see see-through is for the safety. Another, you see, original safety, the purpose. So I don't know, that's for your, is a consideration?
So, I'm sorry, can I ask, are you talking about hedges or fences?
It's the hedge high, like you can fence like more than 4 feet. You can another 2 feet. It's like a fence. Yeah, you are right.
Fences, yeah. Hedges,
fences.
you won't be able to see through them. Fences, I mean, I think
okay,
if
I
we,
see.
and I think we
So
do, I think we do have, I mean, if you walk around, there are lots of fences that are 6 feet in front yards. And some are masonry, some, I mean, they're just old. They were probably before the code was written. Like my street, if I walk down Hermosa, almost every house, their walls are significantly higher than 6
feet.
6
right?
feet or higher.
Yeah.
I've kind of taken a survey.
Okay.
And there's lots of brick walls and concrete masonry walls and fences, and there's just a whole variety of different things. And I'm not saying anything looks bad or looks unsafe. I'm just saying none of them are in compliance with our current code. But they may be grandfathered in. You know, some of these are probably built in the 40s and 50s. So they've been there a long time. So some are not, some are newer. I don't know how they slip through, but I would say, to me, it is, when you're talking about a safety issue, it's can you safely back out of a driveway without having a good probability of hurting somebody.
Yeah, so that's why I suggest. But you say the term if a hedge is included, no matter you want to use the block wall. Or
Well, I'm differentiating between hedges. If your hedge is in a front yard, you don't want to go higher than 4 feet. That'd be my suggestion. Kind of the way the diagram is shown right there. So if you can imagine that's a driveway, you would want to be able to back your car out of that and to be able to see down the street when you're back.
I have our building code. It's some residents have this kind of problem before, talking about they want the front yard. It's become 6 feet. That's I hear about it before. Yeah.
I've heard that.
Yeah. So.
I'm not saying I'll agree with it. But
Yeah. So if we do want to change it, so maybe we can think about it to solve this for future problem.
Yeah, I mean, I would be, personally, I'd be open to it if it's something that's like a fence that you can see through it.
Yeah.
And, obviously, I wouldn't care for chain link. I would want us to have a nicer,
Okay.
like, what's that? Like wrought iron, yeah, something that's, easily discernible from.
Yeah.
It's just a nicer look for the community,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. That's my meaning. Yeah. So if we front yard can allow them to go in higher.
Yeah, I mean, things have changed since we've developed over the years, and
Yeah.
crime is mobile now. It comes from all over the area, not usually local. It's coming from somewhere else, and
Since that's true.
transitory.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the people feel a lot more secure when they have a tall fence.
Yeah. That's my comments. Yeah. Thanks, Mayor.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Ding. Okay, so I personally, I would definitely agree with my colleagues, and I don't believe that we need to set a certain height, but it's just a matter of maintenance. They should maintain their yard. This is their job. So anything that we as our city absorb that this resident may not maintain their yard well, lack of maintenance, and start creating issues like fire hazard, then we probably can apply to the code. But the code should not be the weapon that becoming a reason why will make our city staff like a scapegoat, try to be the middle person and hard to solve the problem. So, but also I think Councilmember Ding has brought a good a point about the fence, because I think that the corner lots area, the height of wall is not over 2 feet. So I think that could be a question I need to address to our chief, Chief Alazade, because I do have those resident complaints about when they are actually, especially living on a major street on Del Mar, the corner, that they have been forced to keep the fence so low, like 2 feet. They feel like like psychologically, they feel fear of like those traffic and that makes noisy, dusty, and also that easy for people to access to their property. But I understand the corner is, we need to be more visible, so it should not be a solid wall.
So
It should- yeah.
maybe we say something, instead of just saying it has to be 2 feet, we say, or does not obscure the view through from
Right.
street to street. Because you can put nice, beautiful fencing that you can still see through it.
Yes.
It just makes you feel a little more secure.
That can be see-through because that
opinion
is
on it.
open, what is it called? Open, iron?
Yeah, Brian.
Iron bar.
I mean, we're not going to be the ones chasing people, it's going to be the.
Yes, yes, so that's why I would like to hear from our chief. So Chief, would you like to make some comments about this?
If we're specifically speaking about corner houses, yes, it could be a hazard, not only to pedestrians, but the motorists traveling through that intersection, because most of us, when we are looking to make a right or a left-hand turn, we're normally cutting that corner and seeing for oncoming traffic. So if there were, whether it's hedges or a wall of a certain height that would block that, now you're asking for cars to travel a little further into the intersection before making that turn. That few feet in itself could cause an accident involving a pedestrian that simply has the green and is walking across, and or a car. So I would, for best practices, have some limit or some regulations where it is not a solid hedge of a certain height that is going to obstruct the view, and or definitely not a solid wall or fence or gate that's going to do the same.
I see. So you actually prefer that it's really easy to see the corner and to avoid any hazard for police officer and pedestrian.
Well, not only for law enforcement or first responders, but more so for the community that's, traveling a day in and day out, and especially if it's near a school, kids aren't normally going to stop. They're just going to keep walking and perhaps not be paying attention. So if there is a limitation, again, just keeping those parameters in mind to not block it, especially, or hedges coming all the way out to a corner. There's some properties that lie further back that it may not be that big of a concern, but there's also properties in the north and, well, all sections of the city that may come further out to the street, and that's where the problem would,
So you think that 2 feet is still a good size, good height for the
I'm sorry,
corner?
2 feet or 4
2
feet?
feet? I mean, the corner, because now its corner is like 2 feet.
I would say that would be fair, possibly even 3, but again, it's going to depend on the actual, at least from a traffic standpoint, what corner are we talking about? There, again, properties that's lying further back that you might have 4 or 5 feet, and you still have a clear view versus another one, so.
Okay, so I guess that we need a one rule applies to all. It's easier.
So
I
can you
think on the-
fence? Okay.
I'm sorry, sir.
Yeah, if wall it's like 2 feet, but a corner, I mean, they can use the fence and up to maybe.
You mean the wrought iron bar
Yeah,
fence?
yes.
Yeah, if there is a 2 feet cinder block wall, and I have seen yards with the wrought iron gate that you're still able to see through.
Yeah, I have a mental list if you need to know where they are. Fairview and Delmar. I start going down Delmar. A lot of those corners have CMU and then wrought iron. You can see them, and then you can. To me, it doesn't seem unsafe. And a lot of around Marshall School, there's a lot of those as well. Almost every corner. But I think a lot of those predate whenever this code was written. But it was just common sense. They didn't put some giant wall up that you can't see through. I mean, I don't know if we want to take action on that today, and we might give staff time to come back with a recommendation.
Maybe just today for the hedge height, so that's.
Yeah, I think on that one, we can say, let's get some thought into this and not try and make a decision right now, but I don't think the hedge is going to unleash a terrible thing into the city, but I think for the fence and the corners especially, we should probably have staff think, survey the city a bit, and we already have existing conditions that are reasonable, aren't causing accidents right now. They're not a attractive nuisances or anything like that, and we can kind of base the code around what we already have, and it keeps the city uniform, and I think it would satisfy the people that are fearing, obviously, someone coming into their property that they don't want. You go right down, right here, I mean, on the corner, you go on San Marino where it turns at those apartments, every one of those houses has wrought iron fences, and the one in the corner there on Live Oak has, not to call anybody out, but it has just a wrought iron fence around the whole property. Looks nice, keeps people out that they probably don't want in there, and I walk a lot.
Okay, so any other comments about this? And so we should give Samantha directions that we would like to remove the height limitation for the hedge height. Is that the thing that we want to do?
Yeah, I mean, I will make a motion to do that if, so we can revise, have the code come back with the revision, eliminate
This
the
one,
hedge
we
height.
have no vote needed. It's just direction.
Oh, so you just want direction? So that'd be my recommendation if the council is amenable to come back at a later date with the fence and the corner lot issue, and then come back with an ordinance eliminating the height limitations on the side walls and backyard walls.
Okay, so that's our direction. Thank you, Sam, and thank you very much, Chief Elizalde.
Appreciate it.
Next item, please.
I have no cards for the second public comment period.
We do not have any? Okay. Then the city manager report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I was actually hoping Doug Richter would still be around because he approached me today about our cable channel 3, which we normally have our meetings on. It is still dark. We don't have any sound or video on that. I can tell you we've been working with Spectrum over the last several months, and it's on their side, and they have several cities who are in the same situation, so we are on top of it, but at the mercy of Spectrum. So for now, I would ask folks to continue using YouTube, which still comes in really clearly and sounds good, but we'll still work on that Spectrum channel. That's all I had, Mayor.
Thank you. And council comments and conference meeting reports. Who would like to go first? Yes, Vice Mayor?
The only comment I have for tonight is I was fortunate enough to be asked to be a speaker for some youth in Alhambra. Well, actually, the youth were from all over the San Gabriel Valley, but the location was in Alhambra. It's called Iona Workspace, which is kind of like a rework, but it's more permanent spaces for businesses who can't afford to rent a whole office space, but it's kind of an incubator. And I know they've been very interested in coming to San Gabriel, and when I spoke with staff, they said that the business model that they have doesn't work in our city because of our code. So we're back to our code. It says here, our code requires that each business have 800 square feet of floor area. Given the open floor plan concept of this business, it would not meet our current code. So I would like to get support from my colleagues that we visit this and change it so it's current, because Iona Workspace, there's others that I've seen in El Monte and Arcadia, and I think it's a great concept, a great business model, and I like it to come to San Gabriel, but we can't because of our code. So I would like staff to look at this and give us some of their recommendations.
Okay, thank you, Vice Mayor Menchaca. And Councilmember Chen?
Wait, can we have a
Do we need the
Yeah.
3 members? Is that the way that
I
works?
need at least 3.
Okay,
Yeah,
you would
so
like,
to get
okay,
it agendized, right, by rules?
no problem.
Yes.
That's,
Yeah.
3, okay.
We'll do it.
So we will include that next time. So Councilmember Chen?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a few small things this time around. On August 23rd, I attended a San Gabriel Valley Association of Realtors luau and legislative meeting in San Gabriel, and in the mall, in the second floor where the Golden Soup is, in 1000 block of East Valley-ish. And it's a fun event, and I saw my colleagues there. And also on August 24th, I attended a block party in the Village neighborhood, and I met some great residents, and it was a great event. So thank you to the PD and FD and everyone else who helped make it happen. And on September 9th, I attended my monthly Chinese American Citizens Alliance dinner meeting at NBC in Monterey Park, and they held a very informative local candidates forum. So it was very helpful, and they, showcased some of the local candidates, and it went well. And I will end with, because today is a couple different observances. So happy Mooncake Day, and also happy U.S. Constitution Day. And just as a reminder, for anyone who hasn't read it in a while, I think it's worth it to take a reread and understand it. So happy U.S. Constitution Day. All right. Thank you. I yield my time.
Thank you, Councilmember Chan. And Councilmember Harrington?
No comments. I just want to thank staff for all the reports. I think we had some really informative and good reports tonight. And then just I want to see if Councilmember Chan can give us directions without referencing restaurants. Is that possible? Every time you give directions, it's right by this restaurant or right by that restaurant.
Yeah, that's why I'm a foodie.
I notice every time, it's by the noodle soup. It's by this.
For real. I gotta be proud of our restaurants.
Oh, in all seriousness, thank you to the staff.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Harrington. And Councilmember Dean?
Thank you, Mayor. So, and October 21st, I have a chance to attend our 5th employee, the annual dog whipper after the ice cream.
Is it October?
That's August the 5th, 21. Okay, sorry. Okay. Too much. Okay. And the 23rd, I also have attended Councilmember Chan say the Western San Gabriel Valley Realtor, the legislative forum. I have a chance to meet all the candidates. And on the 24th, we go to the village block party. It's good for our also. It's a historical area. It's the village. It's really nice. It thanks the PD fire to help. And let me. Too many events. So I just. Okay, so I just skipped some event. Okay, on August 30, it's for the Chinese American construction professional, the annual gala. They are hosting in our San Gabriel Sheraton. It's a really good event and provide a community, like especially if they want to like do the ADU or like repair their home or build a new house. It's a really good opportunity for the resident and the professional people. And on the September. I have the September 4th have chance to the 2024 BITSFED freshman meeting. Okay, in the Universal Studio. It's have a chance to meet the different city the council member and have chance to communicate each other. And then September 7th. Okay, I have chance to join the LA County Asia Employee Association, the fish fry, the pollock. It's a really good. It's saw our county have like more employee. It's Asia. It's help, especially sometimes we have a lot of new. Immigrant of like me, the first generation immigration, so have some language barrier, to have the bilingual people to help them to understand each other. And afternoon, I have chance to get invited for the Temple City Mid-Autumn, the event. They have 2 days event and cooperate with the War Journal. It's really good too. Okay. So and let me. Okay. Too much. Okay. Let me try get the important one. Okay. All right. It's 9/11 morning. It's thanks the Chief Flores and the Chief Iliana. Okay, the PD and the fire together give it to us the memory, especially thanks the Vice Mayor, the Machenka, the husband John, and the shared. It's really touched the story. Yeah, it looks like every year we do, but we want to remember that. We don't want this kind of tragedy happen again in our country. Yeah, and then okay. Actually, okay, on the September 13th, I have chance to join the AYC press conference for the they are 35 years the annual gala. And oh, another one on the last Saturday, September 14th, I have chance to visit the Chinatown, the Chinese school, okay, and to see the more historical the Chinese school. They try presentation more like let the second, third generation Chinese American to learning the Chinese culture. Okay. And yes, last night I have chance to join my hometown, the club, the Shanghai club. They are more the Autumn Festival too. Okay, but this time they are in different city. Usually in our San Gabriel city. Next time I suggest keeping in our city. Okay, and today we just back to the today. This morning, and our San Gabriel Hope Line Club, the member. Okay, I'm president, but I got our Mayor Jiang Wu. He's a member too, and former council member Karina Rivera, and rest of our Hope Line Club, the member, and we do the our line club. We do the total today the 5 section. For the first of all, we go to the fire department, right? Okay, chief to and then go to the PD, then come to the city hall. City hall include the public work. So our Hope Line Club, it's a kind of a raise fund donation. Got the moon cake, just give it to the first response, the PD, fire, and also good work for the city staff, and show our appreciation, and also just show the Chinese culture to everybody. Yeah, on the dials, everybody have this one. Okay, yeah, and after that we go to our senior program. We cooperate with the EDM Median together. They have the kind of donation, the moon cake. We have different kind of moon cake. We have also got the community donated fruit and a puff. It's a lot of donations. They let the senior meal, they're really happy with it. And then we go to our next to the Hawaii supermarket, have the adult daycare center. They also have a lot of senior. Okay, so we just show our kind of donation to their happy, because sometimes some senior the kids not living together. Just use this opportunity, the Mid-Autumn or Mooncake Festival for the Chinese community is really important for the family festival. okay, the family together, and especially, I think I already mentioned that last year too. So even like sometimes they want to, they are missing their people in their hometown, like I'm from Shanghai or Beijing or Guangzhou, you know, at Taipei too. So Hong Kong, so it's use this opportunity. So for example, tonight it's a full moon, and everybody just tasting the moon cake and drink the tea and watch the full moon, because the moon still same moon, no matter where you on the earth, right? It's same moon, so you can like sync it together. So it's a lot of the family value. So I think all the different group people also have the similar family value, but especially this today's Mid-Autumn Day. Today, it's called August 15th. That's a full moon days. So hopefully use this opportunity to like people, our community, to understand that our very important the festival. That's my report. So a little bit long because it's almost whole month. Okay, so all right. So just especially for today is the really meaningful. Before I come in, I have the dinner with my 93 years old the mom together. Just want to like share the family value. Yeah, thank you all. Yeah, happy Moon Festival. Let me just learning our councilman Mayor Wu. Okay, 中秋快乐，中秋快乐，中秋快乐. That's the last one is Shanghainese. Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you, Councilmember Ding. I mean, this is so hard to, do the report after him, but this is also so easy because he has done most of the job. I have, more event. I participate with him, but
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, support.
it's still one missing. Let me report it. Councilmember Ding and I actually attended the St. Gabriel Educational Foundation event. Oh yeah, you missed that. This is hard. I have to be so careful on like calculating how many events that he attended. I attended, but finally you missed one. But the reason I want to bring that up because that is their third annual celebratory event that is called Dream, Imagine, and Create. I think they're really grateful that they can work with our city because their students' artwork now able to print it out on the vertical banners and hung in our mission district. So it's like a really huge encouragement to the students and their parents. I feel really touched that day. We have met many students and parents, and they're happy about that collaboration between city and the SEF. So that's the only report I have. Thank you so much, Councilmember Dean, for doing all my job too. Well, then now closed section, we have none. And adjournment, tonight's meeting will be adjourned in memory of casualty of September 11, 2001, and in honor of the brave Americans who met the terror of that day with extraordinary acts of courage and sacrifice. Next regular city council meeting will be held on Tuesday, October 1st, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. And meeting adjourned